This versus Earhart.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young men, have a seat, please.
Miss Loftus, your complaint is that you hired, I assume, this young lady.
Yes, ma'am.
To do some house sitting for you and take care of your cat.
Correct.
And your complaint is that when you came home, the house was pretty much a mess. Some things were missing, and in addition, there was evidence that someone had driven your truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And you believe it was either the defendant or one of her friends.
She admits to it, yes.
Okay. You're her?
I'm her mother.
Why don't you have a seat? How old are you?
14.
14. So you're really suing her mother.
Yeah.
On what day did this incident occur?
April 29th of this year.
You did work for her on the 29th?
Yes.
And what were your responsibilities on that day?
To water plants, make sure her cat was taken care of.
And how long were you supposed to stay in her apartment?
She told me she wouldn't be back till late night, so she just wanted me to be around there to check on her cat, and I could stay there, spend time with her cat.
Okay. What time did you arrive?
Well, I had went there in the morning.
Give me some time, an approximate time.
It was probably around 11.
And how long did you stay?
I was there for like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, when did you come back?
About 4:30.
Okay. You came back at 4:30, and when you came back at 4:30, were you alone?
No.
Who was with you?
My two friends, David and Ben.
And how long did you stay at that time?
We stayed there about, I'm guessing around 7:30.
So you stayed through dinner time?
Yes.
You ordering dinner?
No, I made dinner.
Where?
At her house.
Whose food did you use?
My mom's. Well, mine, essentially.
What do you mean? Explain that to me.
I went to my house, and I grabbed some steak and the seasoning and everything like that, but I made it at her house.
You went back to your house to get the steak
Yes.
and stuff. And you left Ben and David in the house.
Yes.
And by the time you came back, how many other people were there?
There was 2 people in the house.
Just Ben and David.
Just Ben and David.
How many people in total were there that evening?
Just Ben and David.
So just the 3 of you.
Yes.
Just a minute. So you had dinner.
Yes.
Did you clean up after dinner?
Yes, I did.
Then where did you go?
Well, we had dinner, and then we were talking for a little while, and then they were saying...
Look at me.
They were saying to go to their friend's house or have their friend come pick us up. So
Look at me.
we called their friend, and they came and picked us up. And they didn't go inside of the house. They came outside of the house.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you know about her truck?
Her truck? Well, my friends had needed to go home to take a shower or something.
You
And
left this out. You mean your friends David and Ben?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way I could think of to get them a ride, because they couldn't find a ride with anybody, I found the keys and I handed it to them, and I said, well, we just take the truck. We're only going to be borrowing it for a little while, and we'll bring it back and put some gas
They had to take a shower before or after they ate?
before.
And for some reason at 4:30 in the afternoon, Ben and David both had this urgent need to get clean, right?
Yes.
Yes. And I assume that Miss Loftus does not have a shower in her house.
Yes,
So
she
that
does.
they had to
But
go.
they didn't have their own clothes there. They weren't going to wear her clothes.
What was wrong with their clothes?
They were dirty. They needed to take a shower, and the only way I could find them a ride was with her truck.
So they used her truck. What time did they leave with her truck?
Like maybe an hour after we got there, half an hour, I don't know.
4:30, 5 o'clock they left with her truck. And what time did they get back?
Like an hour after.
All right, now, Miss Loftus, now that I've finished with her, tell me what you found when you came home.
I had furniture out of place, food droppings on the kitchen floor. The bathroom door was closed, and so I opened up the bathroom door, and there's a lit candle in my bathroom, and out runs my cat. So
From the bathroom?
Yes, ma'am. There was claw marks from her claw on the bathroom door when she was trying to get out. There was 12 phone calls on my caller ID from, I'm assuming, her friends. And after this, I was receiving several very obscene and threatening phone calls from her friends. And I believe that's how they got the phone number, was that day. I didn't realize that my truck had been taken that day because, like I said, it was late at night. And we didn't take my truck that day mainly for the main reason is my truck was very, very low on oil. I encountered another neighbor the next day who asked me, she said, you know, who was driving your truck yesterday? And I said, what do you mean who was driving my truck? Well, there was a bunch of kids that got in your truck. I know you don't have any kids. And so I turned around and went back home and I called her. I said, you need to get over here right now. I want my keys back. And I hung up the phone. Later, I went to go to her house. And that's when I thought I'd calm down. Maybe that her mom would be home because her mom's very seldom home. So I went over, went to knock on the door, and there was one of her boyfriends standing out there at the door. And I said, where's Robin? And he said, she's not here, don't worry about it. And I said, are you the one that drove my truck yesterday? And he goes, he said, that's none of your business. Okay. I said, well, then I'll just go call the police and we'll settle it that way. And I left. Just when I got home, I hadn't even picked up the phone to call the police yet. My phone rang. It was a boy's voice. And he said, if you call the cops on Robin, you're going to be sorry and your truck will never run again. I went out and I did look at my truck. And there's several dents and scratches in it. There was a half a tank of gas gone, and there was at least 70 miles driven on my truck. I have photos of my truck.
That I want to see.
Okay. And I also included in here, there's also some photos of the wall. There's some dents in my wall, one in the hallway, one in my bathroom that are up further on the wall, and there's a cigarette burn on the carpet floor. And I do have the police report.
I'd like to see it.
Okay. I have a map also that shows the distance that she admits to driving.
What do you mean she admits to driving? Did she
In the
ultimately
police
admit?
report, yes, ma'am. In the police report, she admits it, and so I mapped that out for you if you'd like to see.
Let me look at the police report. Who's Jason? Who's Jason?
One of my friends?
One of the friends who was there.
No.
Jason wasn't there that day?
No, Jason was in California that day with his dad or his
That's
mom.
interesting.
One of those.
Jason wasn't there. You're lying.
No, I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There was some sort of sexual activity that went on my bed.
When teenagers have an empty house, that is a prescription for trouble.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michelle Loftus says she hired neighbor 14-year-old Robin Earhart to watch her apartment. Michelle says Robin and some friends damaged her home, stole personal belongings, and took her truck for a joyride.
Now you can stand up.
Your Honor, may I see them?
Yeah.
One of the other things that I found in my house, there were several items missing out of my dresser drawers and my jewelry box. A pair of diamond earrings. I had some other things taken, but one of the other things that I found was that there was some sort of sexual activity that went on my bed.
Miss Earhart, when did you first find out about this problem?
I had come home from work, and Michelle met me pretty much at my car. She was really upset about what was happening.
Did your daughter initially admit to you that she and her friends drove the plaintiff's truck?
No. She had said that she did not use the truck.
Right, so initially she told you she had not used the truck.
Right.
When did she finally admit to you that she did use the truck?
It was probably a few days later. We were confronted by the police.
So then she admitted she was involved in using the truck.
She told me that they had used the truck, but...
What do you mean they had used the truck? What does that
Well,
mean?
whoever was with her at the apartment, that they had used the truck, but that she wasn't involved.
She wasn't involved? If it's true that she wasn't there, she gave him the keys. She just told me she gave him the keys. How much more involved can you be? Excuse me?
Can I speak?
When I'm ready. You were entrusted to go into somebody's house and to perform certain tasks. Instead, you abused that privilege because you had an empty house, and when teenagers have an empty house, that is a prescription for trouble. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Prescription, especially a teenager with an attitude. And she's got an attitude.
She didn't have this. Her and I had a really good friendship.
Well,
she'd come over, we'd talk, she'd tell me kind of, a little bit about what was going on with her, that she had broken up with her boyfriend. She kind of took my advice, she said, and broke up with him because he was kind of abusive. And
which boyfriend was this?
I don't remember what his name was.
So now she had a couple of new friends. Now, my next question to you is, she's 14 years old, so what you're doing is you're really suing her mother for, not for negligence, because this is not negligence on her part. This is an intentional act, right?
Correct.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
This is a criminal situation. And in a criminal situation, there is a different standard.
Okay.
So my question to you is, do you believe that her mother knew or should have known about her propensity for committing this kind of intentional act?
She should have known.
Why should she have known? And not you. You never had any indication that she would act irresponsibly in your house.
Since this has happened.
Talking about before.
Before, no.
You knew nothing.
No, she's always been very nice and polite to me.
And, by the way, who are these two young men?
These are two of the kids that live in the complex, and they actually saw all the kids that she had, because she had a lot more in the apartment than just the two boys that she said.
I'm absolutely positive that she did.
And they also saw her driving my truck.
Who saw her driving the truck? Step up here. Tell me your name.
Mel Blood.
Tell me what you saw on April 29th with regard to the plaintiff's truck.
I was playing with a couple friends, and I saw her get in the truck, and
So who get in the truck?
Robin.
What else did you see?
I saw her running, her and some of her friends run up to Michelle's house, go in, and
And how many people was she going in with?
I saw like 5.
Anything else that you saw?
No.
Have a seat. Tell me your name.
James Blood.
James, can you tell me what you remember of the 29th of April?
Well, I seen the trucks and everyone was sitting on it. Everyone that entered her apartment.
Was sitting on the truck.
Yes.
How many people did you see enter the apartment?
I didn't see them enter the apartment, but there was at least 5 sitting on the truck.
Did you see anything else?
No.
Sit down. By the way, have either of you two boys have ever had any difficulty with this young lady before?
Well, we were helping someone. We were helping someone move into another apartment, and she come out and told the guy, "Why do you have these tattletales helping you?"
When was that?
I don't remember. It's like
Was this after April 29th?
yes,
Because you had told the plaintiff about what you saw.
yes.
Sit down.
I have all the receipts and estimates for my truck. Would you like to see those?
Yes.
There was also medication stolen as well.
Let's hope it didn't do any damage.
I'm hoping.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your Honor, can I speak?
First, take your hand off your hip. Stand up straight like you're in court. You're not at a beach.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michelle Loftus says she hired neighbor 14-year-old Robin Earhart to watch her apartment. Michelle says Robin and some friends damaged her home, stole personal belongings, and took her truck for a joyride.
Go ahead.
When I took my cat to the vet, I had to take her that Monday because she was acting really sick, and they did blood tests on her and found marijuana in her blood system.
What?
And she also had a toxin in her blood system, and the vet said that that was probably from the candle that was left burning in the bathroom.
Cross your arms.
Your Honor, can I speak?
Yes. Now I'm going to listen to you. But before you say anything, first take your hand off your hip. Stand up straight like you're in court. You're not at a beach. And before you give me a lot of crap, you want to tell me about that day, how the cat ended up locked in the bathroom, how 70 miles got put on the truck, and then we're going to talk a little bit about your friends and you making her life miserable over something you did. So we're going to talk about all that stuff. Now you can talk.
First of all, when she called me, she did not tell me anything about the cat being in the bathroom. All she told me that there was a candle lit in the bathroom.
I'm asking you how the cat got locked in the bathroom.
I don't know how the cat got locked in the bathroom.
You don't know. How did 70 miles get put on the truck?
I told you we used the truck to get
No,
them
you
to
didn't
their
say
house.
we. You said the two boys needed to shower. You didn't say we. Now you want to say we? I'm going to give you a chance. You want to say we, used the truck to go get them a shower. Did we use the truck to go get them a shower? Or did they leave you there cleaning up after a steak dinner?
I went with them.
Okay, so you went. So now there was
first time.
Okay,
and I
listen.
sat in the truck to make sure nothing would happen to the truck.
Gets better all the time. Miss Earhart, I want you to tell me how many disciplinary proceedings you've had with regard to your daughter in the last 6 months in school.
2.
What were they about?
She was probably going to school about 3 or 4 days out of the week.
Since last September.
Yes. She told me she was going to school. Matter of fact, I didn't even find out about her truancy until the last quarter of her school because she was calling in for herself.
Did you have a parent-teacher conference the first semester at school?
Yeah, that was
Did
at
you-
the time that I had found out.
That she was being truanted.
That she was being truanted.
Within the first semester at school.
Well, it would have been,
Like in November?
mid-third quarter. No, that would have been first quarter.
I'm talking about the first quarter. I'm talking about going to school for a parent-teacher conference the first quarter in school.
No.
Did you go?
No.
Okay. Is there any reason why you didn't go?
I couldn't make it. They were way too early.
Okay. I just changed my mind, madam. It appears to me that the defendant, the older defendant, had knowledge that her daughter was misbehaving, or should have known that her daughter was misbehaving, if she had done what she was supposed to do as a parent, which is going to school and making sure that your child is in school, speaking to the teachers, being up on things. She didn't do that. She had an appointment, she couldn't make it. And you as a parent had the responsibility to say to her, before you hire my daughter and leave her in your home, I want you to not do it because I'm not quite sure that I can vouch for her. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, I am not holding her responsible for the things missing out of your apartment, because that is, well, probably true, a stretch. She is, however, totally responsible for the damage that was done to your truck. That's $1,330. And she is responsible for the injury to your cat, which cost you $34 at the vet. That's $1,364. Now, the only thing that I have to tell you, young lady, is you have to live in your own skin your whole life. She did nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong.
And I understand that.
Well, if you understand that, then it's up to you to make certain that your friends leave them alone.
I do not control my friends.
I'm just telling you, you may not control your friends, but if you are complaining to your friends that you got into trouble because of her, the morons that you hang around with will take it upon themselves to harass her a little bit. You wouldn't like it if somebody did that to your mother, would you? Listen, I'm not going to get through to her. I have the sense that she's a lost cause at 14. So why don't you do this? Why don't you change your number? Got it?
Will do.
That's all. Thank you.
37 on the calendar in the matter of Haas versus Light. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
You are the owner of a bed and breakfast.
Yes,
According
ma'am.
to your complaint, you had hired the defendant to manage your operation when you were out of town. Your complaint is that Mrs. Light wrecked your car and additionally stole a substantial amount of money from you. Mrs. Light denies wrecking your car and, of course, to stealing any money from you, and in addition has countersued for harassment and an assault that took place while she was in your employ. So, Ms. Haas, when did the employment begin?
Well, Kathy came sometime, I was critically injured, and it was sometime in July, and Kathy came and said she needed a job, that she'd never been able to get one, and would I give her a chance, and she's never, to my knowledge, had any kind of job at all, so I said I would give her a chance, but I didn't check any of her records or anything.
That doesn't make you a very good business person.
No, it doesn't.
So she came to work for you in July of the year 2000?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you leave?
Well, actually, I didn't leave till October, but the incident when she wrecked the car, the two cars in particular, were us on September 30th.
Tell me about that.
Well, I was over with my boyfriend, who's now my husband, and I was over at his house in Red Bud, Illinois, and I had asked Kathy to bring me some money over. She was on my checkbook, and I asked her to bring me over $800 that we needed some money for some improvements we were going to do. So we were sitting at this like little bar and restaurant, and she came over there and she was highly intoxicated, and they asked us to leave the bar. So we took her down to Randy's mother's house, and she asked us to leave too. So Randy took Kathy up to his place where she insisted upon driving. She took the truck, and Randy was going to show her how to get to the road. It's a country road. She had a girlfriend with her who was not intoxicated. She hit the Camaro from behind with the Mazda truck and then went back to St. Louis. So she damaged not only the Mazda, but the brand new Camaro, which I have saved all my life to get.
Okay. Did she continue in your employ after September the 30th?
Yeah,
She did.
yeah.
Until what date?
Probably about November 11th when I came back from Florida, when the guest staying there had complained that she was doing a lot of narcotics.
Don't tell me what the guest
Okay.
said unless you have guests
Okay.
there.
All right.
November 11th of 2000 is when she was terminated.
Right, I had called her on the phone and said there was a lot of complaints against her, so...
So
that
the
house
whole
was
month of
still being-
October
Yeah, she was
and
there.
for part of November, even
Yes, ma'am.
after this accident, when you
Right.
knew she was drunk and created scenes in two places,
Right.
you continued her in your employ.
Yeah, because I felt sorry for her. She said she had cancer.
Ms. Haas,
Okay, I'm sorry.
you should be.
I wanted to keep her on because she needed a job. She told me she did.
All right, now tell me about the theft of money.
Well, she wrote like a lot of checks. She never would keep any records, and she wrote like $500 for food, but she never bought any food for the bed and breakfast guests. So then she wrote $500 for her boyfriend Mark to remove a tree limb, but it was never removed.
Well, I'm not going back to $500 for food. I will take a look at the
Okay.
paper that you have with regard to the removal of a tree limb.
Okay. Here's the tree limb is still there.
Well, this says payroll and tree service.
Kathy was not even there. I was paying her $10 an hour, but she was never there more than 20 hours a week.
Well, you know, Miss Haas, who do you think is going to go over all these little receipts? You were paying her $10 an hour. She wasn't there for 40 hours. She only should have been paid for 20 hours.
She was supposed to send me her time record in Florida, but she never did.
Who were Randy and John?
There was friends of mine that I paid to have them drive the car up there, but Kathy seemed to have take a liking to John for some reason. I don't know.
Whatever. She's got
I
a
know,
check
whatever.
here that's a memo for Randy and John.
Yeah, that's for Randy, my husband, and a friend of his.
She told me to cash the check and give them $1,000 to Randy and John to drive her vehicle up
She
to
did
Florida.
That. She did that.
Well, that's one of the things
Yeah.
you gave me.
She did that.
What
But
about,
then there was that additional
just a second,
$500.
what about $500 in cash for a phone recorder?
She had asked me to purchase a phone recorder so she can record conversations as she's talking to people. And she had a limo that was being stored at some people's house, and when I quit, I didn't even worry about getting her phone recorder. I just went and paid for the limo, gassed it up, and brought it back.
That's not true, man.
Is that when you quit?
Yes.
When did you quit?
She got fired.
I quit
got
on
fired.
November the 11th, 12th, something like that.
Well, this check was written on November 5th. This is before you quit.
The check for $1,000, it was the day
I didn't ask
after.
for $1,000. I'm going to pass the $1,000.
Yeah,
already.
the check was wrote for $1,000. I quit the day after.
She got fired.
Just a
man.
second. Miss Haas?
I'm sorry.
Don't speak out again.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. You quit the day after you wrote out the check for $1,000?
Yes, 'cause
Fine.
I didn't like
So,
it.
you wrote out a check on November the 3rd. Payroll and tree service, $400.
That was my payroll, and
What
marked it
payroll for whom?
for working for her.
So
Somehow-
you kept your own hours.
No, Miss Haas and I had made an agreement that I would work so many hours, but she had me running errands to lawyers and doctors, which made it consume more hours.
This is all a very loose way of doing business. One final check I'm going to ask you about. You have a check to mail packages and x-rays, $500. What's x-rays?
I had to go to all these hospitals that she was in and get all her medical records. I had to Federal Express it overnight to her.
Oh, is that true?
It's $20. They were $20.
Show me a bill.
I don't have a bill for the X-rays.
Well,
but
how am I
can.
supposed to have a bill, madam?
Well,
And
maybe she
This was
does.
on October. You're supposed to keep close eye.
I was in Miami Beach, Florida.
I don't care whether you
I know,
were.
but I was
don't care
critically
whether
injured. I
you
was
were
in
in
the-
Panama. Listen to me.
I was in the hospital.
Listen to me. Then you don't give a stranger.
I know
a
that.
stranger who you know has an alcohol abuse problem.
I know that, madam.
You don't give somebody who you hire off the street access to your checking account.
I know that.
Right? Sign them on and have no set salary for them and say they work by the hour.
It was $10
She
an
said,
hour.
well, you expect me to ask her on the 19th of October how many hours did you work?
I don't know. I was in
Well,
the
I don't know either.
I was in the hospital at the time.
On October 19th?
I was trusting her.
Well,
Kathy.
then how do you expect me to deal with that? How do you expect
don't
any
know.
court to deal with that? I don't know either.
I mean, the car...
Let's get to the accident, because that's the only thing that may have an objective facts
All right,
that I
well,
can deal
he
with.
was the witness for the accident. Randy, can you come up here? This is my husband. Tell her what happened.
Okay.
Well, we called her from the bed and breakfast to have her bring us over $800 to Red Bed. And she was highly intoxicated. And I tried 3 or 4 times, to let her stay at my house. She wouldn't do it. She refused. So I took her out to the end of the road. She ran to the back of the car.
Had you been drinking?
Who, me?
That's exactly who I'm talking to, sir. Had you been drinking?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. What part of the day or night did this happen, sir?
It's probably about 8 at night.
And when had you started to drink that day?
Not at all.
Miss Haas?
Something.
Miss Haas?
Okay, sorry.
Believe me,
Okay.
I know my business.
All right.
Watching this will be like looking into a Ouija board.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Faye Haas says former employees Kathy Light and Mark Light stole money from her business and wrecked her car. Kathy and Mark deny the charges and say Faye assaulted Kathy with a plastic baseball bat.
What time had you started drinking that day, sir?
Probably 6:37
And where were you drinking, sir?
at a bar.
And what time had you arrived at the bar?
I wouldn't.
What do you mean you wouldn't know? What time had you arrived at the bar that day, sir?
Probably 6:37
From where?
from...
Your mom's home. I don't know. He doesn't remember.
Miss Haas, I'm not going to take any information
All right,
from him.
all right.
Forget it. You blew it. You
I'm
understood
sorry.
where I was coming
But
from.
he doesn't know what time it was.
He doesn't know what time it was because he was drunk.
No, he
Sit
wasn't.
down.
No, he wasn't drunk.
Oh, I have to assume that because if he can't remember where he was on a day
he-
when,
but he-
when
but
two
we were
cars
sh-
when 2 cars collided,
I don't believe you. We were waiting for...
I
people-
don't believe you that
Okay.
he doesn't remember where he was.
All right.
If he doesn't remember where he was on this fateful day, then I have to rely on her statement
He was with
that
me.
he was drunk as a skunk. Now, she may have been. That means you got 2 drunk people driving in your 2 cars, one a Camaro and one a truck. He was drinking and she was drinking, if I believe you. Although I have a little bit of a problem with that because unless there's something wrong with you, you would not allow someone who is as drunk as you claim she was, that required her to be ejected from the bar,
I asked her.
ejected from her mother's house, and yet you would still leave her in charge of your business, giving her total access to your checking account, relying on what she did with money, relying on what she did with guests, somebody who was clearly a danger, according to you. I have
I'm
a problem with
sorry.
that, Miss Haas.
I'm sorry. I'm wrong. You're right. It was stupid.
All right, Miss Lick, tell me what happened with the car.
She had called and they had asked for money, and I had a friend of mine, Jesse, ride over with me. Well, when I got over there, she buys Jesse and I 1 beer. She takes me across the street to a flower shop, buys me a bouquet of flowers, and then she insists on going and unloading the truck. So we went to Randy's house and we unloaded the car. And as far as the car, there was no accident. I get home and I get this phone call from Miss Haas saying I wrecked her car. Well, them 2 are both drunk, so I just basically blew it off.
But after this car incident,
I continued to work for her.
you continued to work for her.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's get to your counterclaim. Go ahead.
I quit working for Miss Haas because she would call me on the phone and cut me down and say I'm dyslexic and this and that, and my nerves couldn't handle it no more. So I call her on the phone in Florida and tell her I quit. 3 weeks after I quit, she's accusing me of all these things. She's trying to fire me after I quit.
So let me hear about this harassment.
She has been calling, my son and I have pagers. She has been calling our pagers. She calls my son and tells him that I'm a dope dealer and that she's going to have to take him to baseball games because I'm going to be in a federal penitentiary because she's going to see to it that I go to a federal penitentiary. I went and got a restraining order against her.
Let me see.
Not true.
Kathy, shame on you. Shame on you.
Miss Haas, you consented to the entry of a restraining order against you by your counsel. Is that right?
I was in the hospital and I could not go. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
The answer is yes. If you're
Yes.
in the hospital and you can't go, then your attorney asks for a postponement.
I don't know what he did, ma'am.
Of course you do.
No, I don't. I really don't, Judge Judy.
He consented to this entry
Well, he went there
Dec-
supposedly to postpone it. I don't-
December 20th of the year 2000. He consented to the entry of an order of protection.
Well, I'm sorry about that, but I've never laid a hand on Kathy. She wanted me to adopt her.
And the order of protection specifically says You are not to
I want nothing to do
abuse,
with it.
threaten, molest, stalk, disturb, and no telephone calls, and
My-
shall not communicate with her in any way whatsoever.
Right.
Now, you came back from Florida on November 11th,
Right.
and according to you, you told me that you were in the hospital in Florida.
I was in the hospital in Florida, in Jackson Memorial Hospital and Mount Sinai.
Well, what'd you go to Florida for?
To get another opinion on my arm that was going to be amputated.
And when were you admitted to the hospital? When you returned in November?
2 days later, a week later, I was admitted to the hospital for
So that would be the 18th of November.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And how long were you hospitalized?
2 days.
Were you re-hospitalized at any time after November? Believe me, I will check.
No.
So that you were not in the hospital at the time that your attorney entered a consent order. You just said you told him to go there and not do anything, put it over because you were in the hospital.
I could not leave the house. I was not allowed to.
Just a second. So that you were not hospitalized as you originally said.
But I had a nurse at home and I could not leave the house.
All right. It's a month later. Month after your surgery. People recover from open heart surgery faster. After this order of protection was issued, were there any other harassing phone calls?
Yes, I have them on tape here.
Let me hear.
Okay.
Guess what? Lisa Paul's going to testify in court. What kind of guy lives with his brother's wife? Low life Hoosier.
I said that.
Yeah, Marcus say I got the restraining order from the sheriff. We never had any intention of hurting Kathy, but I am going to file criminal charges against you, Mark White, and Kathy White for dealing methamphetamine, marijuana, prescription drugs, not only out of my home, but my place of business. We're going to bring up Kathy's past arrest record. So when you show up in court, you better spend about $10,000 to have a very, very good attorney. We are not threatening you. We want nothing to do with people like you, Mark and Kathy Leach. Have a nice evening. Yeah, Mark is saying, have Kathy send me the money for the 2 cars she wrecked when she was drunk on her. I mean, that Mike said she dealt methamphetamines out of my house. End of messages.
I also have tape here of her calling and leaving messages. I will go ahead and play this for you.
How is it you and Kathy for dealing marijuana out of your house? The sheriff will be down there. You can pay me back or you go to jail. Yeah, now tell your girlfriend Kathy Leach, also known as a major drug addict, to bring back the gift certificates to her and all the food certificates she sold. What a woman.
Okay.
I said that. I did. I was
That letter?
I was frustrated.
You were frustrated. You were breaking the law.
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
Huh?
I'm sorry
You were
about the
breaking the
attorney.
law?
I'm sorry about the attorney I got to go down there.
Well, that's not my problem.
I know
Madam.
that,
That's your
but-
problem. You were clearly aware that you were served with a final order of protection. Final order of protection said absolutely no contact, and specifically, no telephone calls.
She had all my records at her house. How was I supposed to get them? Go down to her house? Her neighbor's very dangerous.
I don't quite frankly care what precipitated it. All I care about is there was an order that you were made aware of by service, because you indicate on this that you
But I asked
had
her why she was
No,
doing
you
that
may
to me.
not ask a question.
I was asking you why she would do that to
You
me.
don't
right?
ask me any questions. I'm telling you.
All
You
right.
were served with an order. You were on notice. You continued to harass her. And in addition, you violated the order.
And as far as her abusing me, she would hit me with plastic bats and wooden and metal canes
When did you do that?
when I was working for her.
Why didn't you leave?
Mark had made a joke to her about telling her that she had to stop hitting me and leaving bruises because she would have to pay $50 for each bruise and $100 for blood, and we was just joking about that. But that was to get her to stop hitting on me.
So insane.
Listen to me.
I'd leave too if somebody did that.
This is certainly not a think tank here. However, if I'm working for somebody and they even think about hitting me, I'm gone.
I know, but
I know. They don't make a game of it. Every time she hits you, leaves a bruise, you get $50, $100 for drawing blood. Means that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Your claim against her is dismissed. You have no proof. and I'm not satisfied with hubby's proof that he wasn't responsible for this accident. You have no tangible proof that she stole anything from you. You do have proof, however, that she continued, despite the issuance of this protective order, to continue to call you, which is in violation of the protective order, and on the counterclaim, I am awarding you $500.
Wood versus Kane.
Thank you.
Quite welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Briefly, Ms. Betancourt, your case involves one of your dogs.
Yes.
You had 2 dogs. You decided you wanted to have the dogs photographed. You went to the defendant's establishment to photograph your dogs. According to you, he was negligent, and due to his negligence, your dog ran out of the establishment, was hit by a car, took off, and disappeared. You've never seen the dog since. You want to be reimbursed a substantial amount of money, because you say that as a result of his actions, you not only lost a dear friend and a companion, but the dog suffered substantially, you are sure, after being hit by the car. Right?
Yes.
What kind of dog was the dog that disappeared?
A Doberman,
How old?
3.5 years old.
And the other dog that you have?
A Doberman also.
How old is the other dog?
At the time, she was 9 months.
And you went to have the photographs taken, and you took with you your trainer.
Yes.
Is this trainer?
Yes.
Why did you take the trainer with you?
Well, he was only a friend that day, Your Honor. I mean, I took him as a friend.
Was he your dog's trainer?
Not Zoe's, no.
He was the puppy's trainer?
Yes, Your Honor.
So he's a dog trainer.
Yes.
How long had he been training your other dog?
About 6 months.
Had he ever trained Zoe?
No, ma'am.
Step up, sir. Tell me your name.
John LeBlanc.
Mr. LeBlanc, what contact did you have over the last 6 months before this incident with Zoe?
None.
Had you ever seen the dog?
I met it once.
When?
I showed up at her house, and basically the dog just ran around me, and it was nervous, submissive.
Nervous and submissive?
Yes.
Did you ever have discussions with Miss Betancourt about Zoe?
No.
Did you ever ask her why she didn't want you to train Zoe as well?
No.
Never spoke to her about it?
Nope.
Okay. When she was planning to take the dogs to be photographed, why did you accompany them?
She asked me.
When did she ask you?
Probably 2 weeks later.
2 weeks before?
Yes.
2 weeks before you were supposed to take the photographs is when she asked you to go with her?
Yes.
Had you ever been with Miss Betancourt on any other social outings?
No.
Have you ever had coffee with her outside of taking care of the dogs?
No.
Taken her to a movie, gone to a movie
No.
with her? Strictly business?
Yeah.
You were not her friend. It was a business relationship.
Yes.
Good. Have a seat. So you went with your trainer.
Yes.
What happened when you arrived at this establishment?
Okay, we went into the store, and we went to the back of the room, because that's where they were doing the pictures. It was a pet supply company. And Mr. Kane goes there to do photography for dogs.
Okay.
And we went to the back of the store, and we noticed that it was an open area. There was no barriers. And I knew my dog was nervous, and, he was asked by John twice, to leave her on the leash. The first thing he said to me was, well, the leash wouldn't look good in the picture. So I said, well, I'd rather have her on the leash. So then we were talking some more, and he said, for 8 years, without incidents, he's been taking pictures. And then either he or his assistant walked up to the dog and took her off the leash and handed the leash to me.
Did you at that point, Miss Betancourt, say, no, I want to put the leash back on the dog?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
So you're standing there holding the leash?
Yes.
And you accepted the fact that he was taking pictures with the dog without a leash?
Well, I was accepting it only because now I had to trust him, because he said he never had an incident.
Go ahead.
So they started taking the pictures. They got 2 pictures, and then they wanted to have the younger dog moved closer. I have a picture that he did take of the dog. They wanted the black one moved over closer to the other one, and when we went to do that, the other one fell off the back of the table she was on. And she was scared, so she ran to the front of the store, and they have the automatic doors there. And as soon as you step in front of it, they open. So she got out onto 114, which is in Peabody, Mass., and she ran up a little bit by a car company, and in the meantime, all the employees ran out after her. I went into the parking lot just at that point because I had hurt my knee previously and I couldn't chase her. So I came back in the store when I saw she had gone further up the road than I thought she would. I came back in to get John, and I said she ran out into 114. So he asked Mr. Kane and his assistant, please hold the other dog on the leash, while he went looking for the dog. And I went back out into the parking lot, but stood there. And then somebody was yelling that she was on her way back. So she was coming back, and the traffic was stopped. It's a high area for traffic. And I saw her head above the traffic, and I had called her once because it was stopped. And then I just kept my mouth shut because I didn't want to call her. And then, the traffic started going again because the lights changed to green, and she got hit by a car right in front of me once. And she was thrown to the pavement, but she ran around this fencing and ran further up 114, where it was confirmed by 2 other people that she was hit in front of another pet store.
And you never saw her again?
Never saw her again. Went looking for her, put ads in the paper. I called dog control officers all the time, the police in that area, the shelters. I handed out flyers to the different businesses up there, and no one ever gave me a call back.
Can I see the picture, please? Beautiful.
Thank you.
Which one?
The beige one, the fawn one.
What's with the ears?
That one never stood up. I had gotten her when she was 6 months old, and, it wouldn't stand up.
I don't forget what kind of dog I had. Were you supposed to stand up and one of them never stood up?
Well, these you have to tape all the time.
Okay. Mr. Kane, I'll hear you, sir.
Mrs. Betancourt's original complaint against me was that she had asked me twice to keep the dog in question on leash. But not only weren't we asked twice to keep the dog on leash, we weren't even asked once to keep the dog on leash, because if we had, we would have complied with that request. We've been in business for what's now 9 years. We have policies and procedures for just about every eventuality that can occur when photographing dogs. And one of them is requests to keep a dog on leash. And that policy is that when we're asked to keep a dog on leash, we will remind the owner that a leash will be trailing out of the resulting photographs. And if that's okay with the owner or whoever brought the dog in, we'll proceed to photograph the dog on leash. We don't care as long as we have a chance of selling the picture. That exchange simply did not happen in this case.
Well, I would say probably, Mr. Kane, something like this happened. Perhaps the dog was on the leash, and perhaps she left the dog on the leash when the dog was placed on the table, purposely. And perhaps you had a conversation with her and you said, look, the leash is going to show. In my 8 years' experience, I've never had any trouble with a dog jumping. Just listen to me, Mr. Kane. I've never had a dog jumping off the table. I've never had an incident, and it is going to show. And Ms. Betancourt acquiesced by accepting the leash and holding it. Ms. Betancourt.
Yes, ma'am.
This incident is not his fault. It's easy to blame somebody else. When you said in your papers and you told me that you walked into a store that I'm sure you've visited many times before.
Yes, Your Honor.
So that you were not surprised to see that this store, which has no other enclosed areas, is an open store. Mm-hmm. And he's set up in the back. If as a dog owner, and you know your dogs better than anybody else, certainly more than the defendant who's never met your dogs, if you know that one of your dogs is skittish, which I assume you did because that's why you brought the trainer. He did not come as a friend because he was not your friend. He was your trainer. If you knew one of your dogs was skittish and you look at this open area and you say, I don't think that this is a good idea for me, you take your dogs and you leave. And you can go have your dogs photographed in a little studio with a closed door. You chose not to do that. And assuming your story is correct, that Mr. Kane gave you the leash to hold before he started to take photographs, you and or your trainer could have said to him, we're not taking these photographs unless the leash is on the dog, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
As a matter of fact, according to you, he took several photographs before anything happened with the dogs, right?
Two poses.
Took 2 poses and got one beautiful shot of the dogs.
Yes.
So at that point, you're holding the leash and you're not upset.
Well, at the time, after he gave me the leash, I put it on the floor because I was standing on the side of Zoe.
Well, that's a good thing. But you could have said to him at that point, I don't care if the leash is showing in the picture. That's not the important thing. The important thing is the safety of my dogs.
I did say that to him once.
No, then you put the leash on your dog and leave. If he refuses to take the photograph, which he would not have done, you put the leash back on your dog and you say, I'm the dog owner. I know my dog. I don't want to take any chances. That's what you do. The fact that the dog became spooked by falling off, running out, electric doors opened up, the proximate cause of that was the fact that the dog was unleashed. So, Ms. Betancourt, sometimes when an incident like this, tragic incident like this happens, it's easy to blame somebody else.
Your Honor, I'm not trying to blame him. It's what happened.
Yeah, but
I just feel he was negligent for me because, you know, he wouldn't leave the dog on the leash. I wanted
That's
her on
not
the
true.
leash.
That's not true that he wouldn't leave the dog on the leash. You had a choice. It was your choice as the dog owner.
Yes, but he came up to the dog and took the leash off and handed it to me.
There was no objection when the leashes were taken off.
He took the leash
That's
on
true.
the dog. He handed it to you. Did you go back and put the leash back on the dog
No.
and say, I want the leash on the dog?
No, Your Honor, I did not.
That's easy. That's your fault. It's not his fault.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Judith Betancourt says pet photographer Bill Kane's negligence led to her dog being hit and killed by a car.
You're suing Mr. Kane, and you think his negligence is worth thousands of dollars.
Well, I went through a lot of pain and suffering
But part
because
of
I
that-
lost my dog.
Just because you lost your dog, would you blame somebody who hit the dog with their car under those circumstances?
If they hit the dog, yes.
No.
Well, see,
No. If they'd hit the dog purposely, yes, but if the dog is running out in the street, if it's a choice between swerving off into oncoming traffic or hitting the dog, you have a choice. Either you kill yourself, your child who's sitting next to you, somebody else in the car. As a matter of fact, if there was an accident, it would be your fault. with
that's
the
why I
dog.
wanted her on the leash, because there is a leash law in Peabody, too.
Then you should have kept the dog on the leash, Miss Betancourt. You're not following me.
I understand that, Your Honor.
Good. That it's your fault. You don't get money from him. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This was a very unfortunate accident that happened, but that's exactly what it was, an accident.
I feel he was partly responsible because I did ask him to keep the dog on the leash. And I lost a dog, not him.
And now the next case.
All parties on Norton versus Osley. Step forward, please.
40-year-old homemaker Diane Norton is suing 41-year-old human resource specialist Pamela Osley. Diane says Pamela ran over her 6-year-old daughter's bicycle.
Miss Osley, as far as I can piece together, which is not very hard in this case, you went to someone's house to retrieve your granddaughter.
Yes.
Person whose house it was is the daycare provider for your granddaughter.
Her backup daycare, yes.
And when you pulled up into the driveway, there were some other children playing in the driveway. And one of those children, who had a bike, was this little girl right over here. Right? Tell me your name.
Caitlin.
Caitlin. You picked up your grandchildren?
No, I went into Sylvia's, and she wasn't there. I went back outside, and when I went to get back in my car, I noticed that the little girl and another little boy were playing towards the bottom of the driveway by themselves. So I got in my car, and I turned around, I started going very slowly because I was worried. I'm a mom, I know kids move, and I didn't want them to move in front of my car, so I was going very slowly, and all of a sudden I felt like I hit something. So I stopped, pulled forward, started to get out of the car, and the little girl came over, picked up the bike, and I said to her, I said, you need to be careful where you put your bike, and the bike didn't look damaged, and I didn't stay because I needed to find my granddaughter. I had been mistaken about
Whatever,
Sylvia.
so that you left.
Yes.
It's your claim, Miss Norton, you weren't present, but it's your claim that there was substantial damage to the bike and you want her to replace the bike.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So there really is no issue that you hit the bike.
No, and I told the officer, and I left him a message that he told me it was the rim, and now all of a sudden it's the whole bike. I did not back over that bike because I would have remembered backing, going over it because I pulled forward.
You have a picture of the bike?
Yeah, I have a
May I
picture
see
of
it?
the bike damaged.
I'd like to see it.
And she ran over the whole back tire. It wasn't just the tire. And the
Big car, little bike, so that's what happens.
the
You may
tire
not-
won't even go around. It's bent.
Okay.
I have a picture here, too, of the driveway.
I don't think that that's an issue. Miss Osley, she
I
she
told the
didn't commit a
officer-
bank robbery. She probably should have stayed to see what happened, gotten out of her car. There's no question about that.
From the story that I heard from my kids, she wasn't that nice. She told them to get out of her way because she was in a hurry.
No, I don't talk like that to children.
She was in a hurry because she could not find her granddaughter. She did not know where she was, so she was panicking, not knowing where she was.
I didn't know where my granddaughter
just a second.
was.
So that may have happened, Miss Norton. That may have happened. She saw that your daughter was okay.
She never saw that my daughter was okay.
Yes, I did.
No, Miss Norton, pay attention. She just said to me, your daughter came over and picked up the bike. So she knew she hadn't hit a child.
Well, that's not the story I heard.
You weren't there.
Right. You should ask my daughter. She was there. And
You weren't hit by the car, were you? No? Did you go over and pick up your bike?
I went to my brother instead.
After your bike was run over, did you go and get your bike?
The neighbor lady, she came over and she tried to fix the bike, but she couldn't.
Okay.
The little girl moved the bike, or I wouldn't have been able to back out.
Just a second. You weren't hurt by the car, is that right? No. So she knew she hadn't hurt your daughter. And if she were panicked about her own grandchild, it's very possible she didn't do the totally rational thing, which I'm saying wasn't right, but this is not somebody who was guilty of a bank robbery.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Okay. And she can't ride the bike now.
No.
Fine, so she needs a new bike, and you have to get it for her, Miss Olsley, because you hit the bike. Not a big deal. You have the cost of it?
I don't have the original receipt, but I do have a receipt, the cost to replace the bike.
Let me see.
My question is, I think it's only the tire that needs to be replaced, not the whole bike.
She doesn't have to have, listen to me, she doesn't have to have a repaired bike. This was your negligence. As opposed to this little girl, you're getting into a car, a big car, you see children playing. You're supposed to walk around the car, make sure that nothing is there. No child, none of their equipment. I cannot attribute to Caitlin contributory negligence by leaving her bike behind your car. You're the adult, you're the licensed driver, you have to make sure that you have a completely clear road. This sort of thing happens, so you can't make more of it than it is.
I know. I did try to call her quite a few times to, I
didn't know your name.
No, don't answer. Go ahead.
I called and it was her daughter or her sister. Every time I called, she'd say, oh, she went for a walk, or oh, she went to Target. And it was like 7, 8 times. And finally I said, if she can't call me, and her daughter, whoever answered the phone, said that she has caller ID, so we were playing a little caller ID tag is what we were doing.
Okay, so you got frustrated.
So I got a little angry, yes.
Okay, so go buy your daughter a new bike. Judge
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Miss Michaud, according to your complaint, you and the defendant had at one time been friends, and then there was some sort of a tiff over a boy. But there came a time when you were sort of having a girls' beauty day. You were at a friend's house, the defendant was there, everybody decided to color their hair. According to you, the defendant applied a hair dye on your hair. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then you stayed home, and she and some of the other girls went out to get some other products. They were gone for a couple of hours. You rinsed out the hair dye. Everything was fine. They came back. The defendant put a conditioner on your hair, and then all your hair fell out. Right?
Correct.
So you are convinced that she put something in this conditioner that caused your hair to fall out?
Yes.
What kind of hair product did you use? Was it a product that you had used before? The
Yes.
dye?
The dye was the exact same dye as I used 3 months prior to this.
The same one?
The same color, the same everything.
Okay, and how long did you leave it on?
45 minutes, like it said on the box.
And you rinsed it out?
And I rinsed it up.
And then you just sat around the house and waited for them to come back?
Well, I was watching her daughter. They stopped at McDonald's or something, I don't know. I was watching her daughter, and I was just rinsed the conditioner, the dye out of my hair, and waited for them to get back. And then
What happened when they got back?
She came, and she had 2 little travel-sized bottles of conditioner. She gave one to Karen and one to me. She asked Karen to put it on her hair, and she told us to put it on her hair for as long as we could stand it. Now, I'm not sure what that meant, but once we put the conditioner on her hair...
Well, did you look at the travel-sized bottle of conditioner?
Yes. It was the exact same. I've used that conditioner before. It was the exact same kind as she was using.
Right. And did you open it yourself?
No.
Who opened it?
Danielle.
Were you there when she opened it?
Yeah, I was there when she opened it.
And you had used that conditioner previously and nothing had happened?
Correct.
And you put it on your hair and what happened?
I let it sit for a little while and then it started to burn. And Karen went into the bathroom to rinse that conditioner because she had it on her hair too.
Step up here, please. You're Karen?
Yes.
Karen, when you put the conditioner on your hair, did it burn too?
No.
It didn't burn at all?
Nope.
Had you ever used that conditioner before?
No.
But you went to rinse yours out.
Yes.
Why?
Because she said her head started to burn, so I was scared that it might have a reaction with my head, so I went to rinse my hair out, and I rinsed it out, and it was just conditioned.
What happened when you went to rinse yours out?
Well, I went into the bathroom to rinse it out, and I put my head under the drain. I was standing in the bathtub, and I looked down at my hands, and there was hair in my hands, but I thought it was just because I had dyed it, and maybe someone died, right? But then I came to the conclusion that when I dyed my hair, it was fine. When I rinsed the hair dye out, it was fine. All of a sudden, it started coming out in clumps, like the whole bathtub, the whole bathroom was covered in hair. My hands were full of hair.
How long was your hair?
Short, but...
Okay.
It didn't come out at the root. It came down to like a little stubble. And for 3 days, it just kept coming out more and more. Every time I washed it, every time I brushed it, it just kept falling out and falling out and falling out. Until I had a burnt spot in my head that would stretch about that far.
Did you take the bottle of conditioner?
No.
Why not?
Because the garbage had gotten emptied out with the bottle of conditioner in it right after it happened.
Well, wouldn't it have been wise to save that bottle? Once you
Would
saw
have been-
all your hair falling out in the drain.
It did cross my mind, and I went to look in the garbage, but it had been emptied already.
Who emptied it?
Karen.
Where did she put it?
Oh, I'd emptied the garbage can because we had dyed our hair and used the same garbage can. So I have a 3-month-old downstairs, so there was like all the chemical stuff in one garbage can. So after we had put our conditioner out and it started to smell, I took it out, tied it up in a bag, and put it in the garage outside.
Okay, so there was no reason why you couldn't go get that vial from the garage outside, right?
Right.
Well, why didn't you think about doing that?
Because I wasn't really convinced yet that she had done it. Like, I was suspicious, but I wasn't really convinced that she had done it.
Okay, so now you're having a reaction and your hair is coming out in clumps as you're rinsing it out.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not convinced that she did it. What convinced you, according to you, that she had done it?
Well, once I stopped to think about it, she's cut my hair before, and it looked not so great. And she went to Karen and to my boyfriend Brian and said, well, I cut her hair like that so she'd look stupid so Brian wouldn't want her. And not only that, but a friend of ours was sleeping on the couch one night, and she said she was envious of her hair.
Just a minute. Is this something that you heard or that somebody told you?
Well, she said it to her.
What did she say?
She said that Nicole asked her to cut her hair, and she cut her hair, and she said that she purposely messed up because Brian told her to do it, to make her look ugly.
Now, did you go to the store with her?
Yes, I did.
And how many other people went to the store with her?
It was me, Danielle, and Jamie, who is a friend of ours. He was at the house that night.
What store did you go to?
We went to Walmart.
Were you all together?
Yes.
Were you all together when the conditioner was purchased?
No. Me and Jamie took some of the stuff that she wanted to buy. She said she wanted a phone card for her phone. So we went to the electronics section to get her phone card while she was purchasing everything else she had bought that day.
Who carried the bag with the conditioner and all the other stuff?
Danielle.
Now, when you got back, who took out the conditioner bottles from the bag?
Danielle.
Did they look exactly the same?
Yes.
Was there any indication that either one had been tampered with?
No.
Did you see both bottles?
Yes.
They were both the exact same bottles?
Yes. Travel size conditioners. Same kind, everything.
So when they were taken out of the bag, do you remember this when she took them out of the bag?
No, I wasn't there when she took them out of the bag. We had everything set up in the bathroom, but the problem was I have a 3-month-old, so we couldn't all just be in the bathroom at the same time. So she went downstairs first, and I went downstairs. Jamie was already downstairs. Nicole was already downstairs because she was there. We had just gotten back. I went into the bathroom. The bottles were already out of the bag. They were on the counter. She grabbed one. She said, here, you got to put this on your hair. You got to put it on your hair dry, like instead of having the water in it. So I'm like, okay. So I put it on my hair. No big deal. Just left it in my hair.
How many other items were purchased that day?
There was the 2 bottles of conditioner, a phone, 1 or 2 phone cards for cell phone, a prescription, I don't know what it was though, from the pharmacy. And hair dye, her hair dye.
Whose hair dye?
Danielle's.
You didn't see any purchase of any hair remover or anything else, did you?
No, I just know what she said she had to pick up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did either of the two conditioners smell any differently when you put them on?
Not at first, but once we put them on our head, then my hair started to smell like if you were to light someone's hair on fire.
And later today,
We ended up filing a police report on Amanda Sheppy because she threatened to kill me.
Well, did she threaten you before or after you didn't pay the rent?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nicole Michaud says Danielle Faria tampered with her hair conditioner, causing her hair to fall out. Danielle denies the charge.
Well, Danielle, I have one question for you. Did you dislike her enough to put something in that conditioner that would cause her hair to fall out?
No. No, ma'am.
What do you think might have caused her hair to fall out?
I'm not sure, but as soon as it started happening, I was the one who was on the phone to the hair dye company and to the conditioner. Karen was there when I was on the phone with them. I asked them, I said, this is what's happening, what can we do?
Is that true?
Yes. They said nothing. They said she must have just had an allergic reaction or something, because on every hair dye, the pamphlet where you get the gloves, says do a 48-hour allergy test.
Yeah, but she had already used this hair dye according to her before.
True.
Okay, but you actually got on the phone.
Yes, I did.
Did anybody suggest that you get the little bottle and find out anything about the bottle?
Well, no. The actual hair company that we used, the actual product, they were closed. Like when I called, this was at probably like 10 o'clock at night, they were closed. So I called L'Oreal, which was the product that I used, just the number off my box, and they're the ones who told me this. And they said, just make sure she doesn't brush her hair or whatever. And the conditioner didn't even cross my mind, because conditioner, you wouldn't think it would do anything.
You told her to put it on and leave it on as long as you could.
Mm-hmm.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Just because that's what the lady at the Walmart told me when we were shopping. I didn't even remember, I didn't even think of getting the conditioner until we had talked to the cosmetician, whatever she's called, in the Walmart, and she had said that because Nicole wanted to dye her hair black, then put blonde peroxide streaks into it. So I asked her, I said, well, what can we possibly use I know her hair is going to be damaged either way, but what could we possibly use to at least save it a little bit? And that's what she gave me, was those 2 conditioners.
You know what your problem is? What you think, Nicole, may have happened. It is possible. But the one thing that you would have had to establish that Danielle did something purposefully to you is to have saved the bottle, right?
Yes.
Wasn't put in a trash compactor, it was just outside in the trash. All you had to do was open up the trash, dig in, find both bottles, because you don't know which one is which. You would have had both bottles. They could have been tested to see if there was anything in there. Did either of the 2 conditioners smell any differently when you put them on?
Not at first, but once we put them on our head, then my hair started to smell like if you were to light someone's hair on fire. That's what it started to smell like. The entire basement smelled like burned hair. And hers smelled fine. Just smelled like regular.
And hers smelled fine.
Yeah.
What kind of dye did you put on your hair?
Same as hers, nice and easy.
Were you planning on putting blonde streaks in your hair?
I was, but I hadn't gotten that far yet, because she had given me the conditioner and said, if you put this on your hair, then it'll stop it from dyeing when you put the blonde streaks in. And so I did.
Do you understand what the problem is? I mean, what you're accusing her of is a serious assault. Tampering with a product in order to cause danger to you. I don't know if that's true. I mean, she purchased the product. There was no indication that they were tampered with before it was put on your head. Is it possible that she went into the store, purchased these 2 vials, went over to a different area, picked up a hair remover, poured some out somehow, right? Filled up your bottle with, or part of your bottle with a hair remover? I mean, is that possible?
I think it is.
It's possible. It's unlikely that somebody wouldn't have seen all this activity going on in the store, right?
It's true, but we never really asked anybody in the store if they'd seen anything weird.
Well, if you never asked anybody, then that's your problem, because you're suing her. You go into the store and you ask a question, and you get the evidence. The proof is in those little bottles. But before I'm prepared to say that this young woman committed a felony, which is really what you're talking about, because that would have been a felony, I need more proof than that, and so does every other court. I think you look terrific. And it's going to grow. It's a style, anyway. Still have the same boyfriend?
Kind of, I guess.
We still associate.
Okay, good. All I can tell you is, Miss Faria, if you did what she thinks that you did, if you did, that's a terrible thing. Unfortunately, she can't prove it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies are excused. You may step out.
Danielle has a way of getting in and making everything look like it's okay for a little while, and then pushing everybody out and ruining everybody's life.
Nicole has a way to turn everything. She's a drama queen. She screams it for attention, and she'll do anything to get it.
I'm not going to let her touch my hair anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Nicklin, Sheppy, Peterson versus Dingman. Step forward, please.
Carrie Nicklin, Amanda Sheppy, and Emily Peterson are suing former roommate, 19-year-old student Lisa Dingman, for breaking an apartment lease. Lisa says she broke the lease because she received a scholarship to go to another school.
All right, not a very difficult case. You ladies all went to college together. You decided at some point that you wanted to, the following year, live together off campus in an apartment. And you found a 2-bedroom apartment, and the 4 of you signed a lease. So far, am I correct?
Yes.
At some point, you decided that you were changing schools.
Yes.
And you were going to be living in another city, and were not going to avail yourself of this apartment.
Yes.
Your lawsuit wants rent for 2 months, her share of the rent for 2 months, when you did not find another roommate.
A month and a half, we're asking, and the $100 to change the lease.
When you leased this apartment, it was from what month to what month?
The lease began on August 17th of the year 2000, and it would go to the following date of the following year.
And it started when the school year starts.
Right, a few weeks before school started, which was convenient for us because we started practice early anyway.
What kind of practice?
Cross country.
Cross country?
Running.
Running.
Yeah.
All of you were on the team?
Yes.
But it's not easy to find a roommate during the summertime because school isn't in session, but you have to rent this place for a year. Is that right?
Yeah, and Lisa had only given us 3 weeks' notice.
No, don't ask. I just answer my questions.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Well, do you think that this is reasonable?
After what they put me through, no.
I'm not interested in what they put you through.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. University track team members Carrie Nicklin, Amanda Sheppy, and Emily Peterson say former teammate and roommate Lisa Dingman owes them for breaking an apartment lease.
Okay, I've had kids who are in college. They have to rent a place for a year, even though they're not using it for the whole period of time. Is that right? Okay. So, and people aren't there before so that, you could fill in immediately. You have to wait until people start coming back and looking for another place to live.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why don't you think you're responsible for this month and a half and for, according to the plaintiffs, the $100 that they had to pay in order to change the names on the lease?
Because when this started, I did offer to pay the $100 to change my name, but they have put me through a lot of stuff. We ended up filing a police report on Amanda Sheppy because she threatened to kill me. And Carrie
Did she threaten you before or after you didn't pay the rent?
This was before. We had a meeting at Emily Peterson's house, and I brought along a list of options that I said that I would be willing to help them to help this situation out.
Well, what kind of options did you offer?
I offered that they can go with the 3 of them, and the monthly rent would go from $720 to $620, and they would each only have to pay $26 extra a month.
Why should they have to pay anything extra?
Because I was offered a scholarship to go to another school.
Yeah, but they're not responsible for that. You are.
Okay. Another option that I gave them was that if they wanted a 4th person, I would be willing to find them a new roommate, and then I would pay the $100 to take my name off of the lease, and I would pay $100 to put somebody else's name on the lease. And they would not agree to that either.
Well, that's reasonable that they wouldn't agree to that. I assume when you rent a 2-bedroom apartment, that means you're going to be sharing a room with somebody, and they want to be able to choose somebody that they are compatible with rather than having you go out and find somebody that may not be somebody that they can live with.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Do you think that this is reasonable?
Well, I felt that if I left it up, like if they were to find another roommate, and I did not help out and all, that they would drag this on for the whole year, and I wouldn't be able to afford to pay $100 a month living someplace else.
Of course, you're absolutely right, but they didn't do that. They found somebody almost immediately.
They did not inform me of that.
Well, but they did. Certainly when you received the summons to appear in court, you realized that it was just a month and a half, that they were out your share of the rent, so they found somebody immediately.
Yet when they first were going to summon me to court, it was for $665. And that I did not think was reasonable at all.
Well, do you think that this is reasonable?
After what they put me through, no, I do not.
I'm not interested in what they put you through. $370 is a month and a half's worth of rent and $100 to change the name on the lease.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Lovely. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $370.
Parties are excused. Miss versus Henry. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Olivencia, it is your claim that the defendant, who you hardly knew if you knew at all, on 2 separate occasions assaulted you and attacked your car. For some reason you are only suing for the attack on your car. The defendant says it was you who assaulted her and her car, but you have no counterclaim. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, where did this happen? The first time?
First time it happened on May 11th at the Worcester County jail.
At a jail. What were you doing there?
I went to go drop off my friend Janika at 6 o'clock, and I went to pick her up at 8.
What was she doing there?
She went to go see her boyfriend.
Had you ever seen the defendant before May 11th?
I've seen her like 2 times.
Did you ever speak to her?
Never.
Okay. So did this initial assault occur on the way going to the jail or when you went to pick up your friend?
When I went to go pick her up.
Who was with you?
My cousin Maria was with me and her daughter.
And now you can tell me what happened.
Okay, I was sitting in the car waiting for Janika to come out. Stephanie Henry then comes out of the jail and approached me, started yelling, cursing at me. Anyways, I noticed she was getting hostile, so I turned on my car and I was going to turn around to go, and that's when she pulled my hair, started slapping me.
How did she pull your hair?
How did she pull my hair? From this side. She approached me. I was in my car.
And the window was open?
The window was open, yep.
So she came and she pulled your hair. What else?
I was sitting in the car, she pulled my hair, and I tried to get her away from me. My cousin was screaming. The correctional officers came outside. They ran outside. They tried to separate us. At that point,
How did they try to separate you? Were you still in the car?
I was still in the car, yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, they tried to separate her because she was holding on to me. So then she runs to the car and kicks my headlight and breaks it. And they witnessed that. They banned us from being there ever again. And we just went home.
You have a report from them?
I have a report from the Worcester Police Department.
Yeah, I see it. What's this blackened out part?
Well, because they don't let me see where she lives, or the police station did that.
This says that you talked about a group of males that surrounded your minivan.
That was afterwards.
Was that at a different location?
Different location.
Okay. Because I know there were 2 incidents. All right, so after she was separated from your car and she kicked your headlight in, did she leave or did you leave?
I left.
And your friend, did you wait for your friend?
She never came out.
All right, Miss Henry, you want to tell me about this incident?
Yes, Your Honor. I was coming out of the administration building like everybody has to do. You leave out of the administration building. I was standing there holding my 1-year-old son in my left hand, okay? I was waiting for my son's godfather to come pick me up. I was standing there. A woman walked by me. I did not have any cigarettes on me at the moment, so a woman handed me a cigarette. I was smoking a cigarette with my right hand and had my son in the left.
That's nice.
I noticed Miss Olivencia walk in the building. I noticed they came out and went into the car with another girl and a young child. Then I noticed she came out of the car and went back into the building. I don't know, I assume it was to look for Miss Cruz, but she went back in the building, she came back out, she got in the car. She proceeded to drive away. Okay, at this moment, I'm standing there smoking a cigarette, holding my son. I flick the ash on my cigarette. She reverses, does a 3-point turn, comes back, and says, "Excuse me, what was that?" A curse word. And I said, "Excuse me, I don't know you, and I have never met you before, and if I had something to say to you, I would address you and let you know. Therefore, I'm holding my son, drive away and have a nice day." I spoke to her nicely the first time. She started cursing at me, calling me these rude names, talking about she knows who I am, she knows where I live. I'm like, well, I have no idea who you are. I've never seen you before in my life. She then steps out of her automobile, comes over to me, approaches me with my child in my left hand, I remind you, and she's pointing in my face, and I'm like, you need to get in your car and drive away because I don't know you and I'm holding my son. And I don't play around like that with a baby in my hands. She kept cursing. She proceeded to get back in her automobile. As she was doing so, she grabbed my hair. I have a scratch right here. Unfortunately, Your Honor, I was unable to have my pictures developed to bring them here. For my evidence, I had a bruise on my knee, on my right knee, from the fact that when she had grabbed me by my hair and pulled me towards the car, my knee was hitting her door because she was pulling me. And of course, I'm going to defend myself with my child in my hands. And I'm going to try to get away because at this point, I didn't know if she was going to try to drive off while I'm holding my son. Okay? No correctional officers came out and broke anything up. She drove off after she had let go of my hair. And she went to turn again, and as she turned again, because you can't go to a certain point and restrict the area, you have to turn back and go out of the parking lot. She turned again, she came at me to try to hit me with my child. So I'm defending myself, moving out of the way, and as I move out of the way, my foot kicked her blinker, the tail light. I have a report from the Worcester County House of Correction saying that she did not care about the blinker, she didn't want to press any charges at that time, and that was the end of that. And I remind you, Your Honor, she was saying that she knew where I lived and that she would be there. Okay?
Miss Olivencia, you indicated to me that your friend here, who you had dropped off in the morning, did not come out. That's what you just indicated to me, correct?
I dropped her off in the evening, 6 o'clock.
Or in the evening, and then went back to pick her up, and you said she
did not come out.
Well, this report indicates that the one involved party was leaving in a gray Toyota, and the other party was standing in front of the administration building. I assume that was you.
Yes, ma'am.
Stop the gray Toyota. Is your car gray?
My car is like a tan.
What's your license plate number? That's the tag number. Bearing Massachusetts tags. And identify the operator as Rebecca Olivencia. That's you. A passenger in the vehicle was identified as Janika Cruz.
That is wrong, because my cousin was with me. And they took my cousin's ID. And they also know that Janika, yes, she did go
Just a
at
second.
6 o'clock.
Just a second. That's what the detective wrote. That the passenger in the car was identified as Janika Cruz. Step up here. Then he goes on to give me a whole story here about something about a boyfriend. Who were you there to visit?
I was visiting my boyfriend, my daughter's father.
What's his name?
Victor.
Do you know Victor?
He's a neighbor of mine.
Anything other than a neighbor?
No, well, he was. He can't remain in that building either.
Is he ever a boyfriend of yours?
No, Miss...
Was he ever a boyfriend?
No,
of
ma'am,
yours?
no, ma'am.
Did you ever go out with him?
No, ma'am.
But you know him?
Yep.
So the connection between the two of you is through her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Stephanie shows up in a car full of guys who tell me to get out. They look like they wanted to fight me. So then one of them puts on a bandana around his face. And then he started like putting his hand in his pocket like if he had something, like a gun or something.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rebecca Olivencia says her car was damaged during a fight with Stephanie Henry. Stephanie says she kicked the car because Rebecca wouldn't let go of her hair.
You knew her from this person who was never your boyfriend, who you
No,
never
we know
dated.
each other from her boyfriend, which is now my ex-boyfriend.
Ah, well, so we have somebody else.
Which is her boyfriend or her fiance.
Who used to be your boyfriend?
Used to be my boyfriend about going on 3 years ago.
And did you like each other before this happened?
We didn't know each other. We met each other one time, and then from there we just couldn't get along. We fought when I was 6 months pregnant.
Who fought?
Me and Stephanie. From there we didn't get along, whatever.
Did you know about this fight that they had?
I had no idea about it.
How long have you known her?
I've known her for a couple of years now.
How long is a couple?
About 2-3 years.
And when was this fight while you were pregnant?
1999. No, year 2000. I was 6 months.
Before this incident happened in May?
Yeah.
Yes. So if you were friends, you mean she didn't tell you that she was assaulted?
No, because we're not always together. We're not
She didn't
best
tell you
friends.
that she was assaulted?
No. I never knew about it.
That's unusual. This also says, Miss Olivencia, that you told the detective there that you did not wish to pursue the matter any further and did not care about the broken headlight.
That is not true. I never even spoke to that detective, as a matter of fact.
Olivencia states that she was attacked first by Henry, that's you, and didn't know who Henry was. She said that they just pulled each other's hair and exchanged words. Well, that's true. So there are a lot of things, according to you, that are wrong in here. Okay, now let's hear about the second assault.
Okay, the second assault happened after Janika asked me to go bring her to pick up her daughter.
Give me the date.
That was the same day. That was probably a half an hour later.
Okay.
I had told Janika, well, I don't know if I should go over there, but seeing that she's my friend and I was doing her a favor, to Piedmont Street, which is where she lives and which is where her daughter was at the grandmother's house.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I get there, Janika steps out of the car, and then she shows up, Stephanie shows up in a car full of guys, like 4 guys. They all jump out of the car. They start cursing at me to get out of the car. I lock my doors. I roll my windows up. I told Janika, get in the car because these people are getting crazy. Anyways, the guys are yelling at me, telling me to get out. It looked like they wanted to fight me. So then one of them puts on a bandana around his face. And the only thing showing was his eyes. And then he started like putting his hand in his pocket like if he had some, like a gun or something. Anyways, my cousin started going nuts. She started screaming. She was making me nervous. I told Janika, get in the car. Janika wouldn't get in the car. She was trying to talk to them. And I just took off. When I was taking off, she ran to my car and she kicked the side of my door. And I drove right to the police station and I told them about it, and that's when I seen the damages that she did to the door.
I'll hear you.
Okay, Your Honor. Can I continue with the ending? Okay. Like I said, after she let go of my hand, she pursued to try to hit me with my child. And she turned around and tried to go.
You told me that. You told me that you were protecting yourself and you kicked it in her taillight.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
And as she was driving off, like I said, her friend, the passenger, her cousin, she claims, threw a large amount of hair out the window and said, "Here's your hair, B," call me the B word, and drove off. Okay. Then after that, one CO came over to me. He asked me for my identification, to look for warrants, to check our records and everything, and then they had pulled her over and they were speaking with her down the street. Okay. My son's godfather had came and picked me up with his friend. Okay. And they brought me home, and by the time I got to my apartment building on Piedmont Street, Miss Cruz, Miss Olivencia, her cousin, and some black, I don't know who the black female was surrounded my neighbor, who is a friend of mine, who also was going to be a witness, appeared here. They surrounded her with her 7-year-old son behind her.
Why, you saw this?
No, as we pulled up, we seen them, yes, and they all
You just
scrambled
want to
in the
tell
car.
me what you saw.
As we pulled up, we seen all 4 of the girls surrounded my friend, my neighbor, with her son with her, and as we pulled up, my son's godfather jumped out of the car and he said, "Who tried to attack Stephanie holding her son?" And I told him it was the driver, and he said, "Get out of the car. Why did you try to attack her holding the child?" We wanted to call the police and hold her there because she was at my place of residence, and Miss Cruz does not belong there either. I have no trespassing on her.
So according to you, one of your friends, went up to her and told her that she had no business being around your neighborhood.
Exactly.
Your block. And then what happened?
And there were 2 other neighbors that came up from the neighborhood. And Miss Olivencia was cursing at one of them, calling him stupid, saying things to the person, and he got
And where
very
was she
upset.
sitting or standing? When
She was in her
going
car with her window down a little.
Okay.
And she was telling him, shut up, he was stupid, cursing at him, and he was the one that damaged her car. I don't know who, he's a neighbor, he lives in the neighborhood, I don't know his last name. I spoke with Janika Cruz about this. She said she didn't want any involvement in this. I said, well, I don't know who they were, because she said that Mrs. Olivencia wanted it for her insurance company. And I said, well, I don't know who those 2 men were, because they were from the neighborhood. They were trying to help my other witness that was there, the girl that they surrounded, that they tried to jump. They came out and they tried to stop them from jumping her.
Okay, she wasn't jumping anybody. She was in her car with the window rolled
Before
up.
she got into the car, Your Honor?
But then she was in the car.
Yes,
But then just listen to me. But then she was in the car. When she's in her car, She's not surrounding anybody.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Whatever you did to each other in that parking lot, or whether you started to pull her hair, you went to her house. And that was stupid.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rebecca Olivencia claims Stephanie Henry kicked her car during a fight outside of a men's prison.
You say you have a restraining order against her? Let me see it. So, Miss Cruz, there is a no trespass order against you for this housing complex.
Yes, there is.
So what were you doing there on May 11th?
She did that. I got that trespassing notice after the fact, and I called Stephanie back up, and she said, yes, I did it because of my boyfriend. Told her.
Just a second. When were you served with this notice?
I was served with that notice May 18th.
Afterwards?
Afterwards, after the fact.
You have any proof she was served with this notice before? It doesn't have a date on it.
No, Your Honor. They were waiting to serve that to her. They didn't know her location.
So they didn't serve it on her before May 11th?
No, they had it already for her.
Now, were either of you arrested as a result of these incidents?
No, ma'am.
No.
Did either of you file criminal complaints against the other?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I went right to the police station and I told
And so
them
you
that.
both did?
Yeah.
What happened with those cases?
We dismissed that.
Why?
All we did was pull hair and smack each other. That was it. I don't think we deserved to get a record over that.
And why did you dismiss it?
I have 3 children, Your Honor. It's very hard for me to go to court all the time with 3 children.
How old are your children?
7, 2, and 1-year-old.
Where is their father?
The Wilfredo Wilaraza is incarcerated, and the other father I'm not with.
When I see the damage for the taillight only, please.
Can I have the pictures of the other?
How many children do you have?
I have 1. I have the pictures of the other damage.
I'm not interested in the other damage. Okay. I have a feeling that both of you ladies deserve each other. You had no business being at her housing complex after this kind of incident.
True.
So whatever happened to you, you deserved. Do you understand? I mean, I'd like to throw you out entirely because it sounds to me as if you both behaved badly. But I find no excuse for you kicking her blinker.
Your Honor, I was trying to move away.
No, baloney. Full of baloney. Moving away, then you move away. Move away and kick is something else.
She tried to hit me, Your Honor.
Listen to me. Move away. Walk to someplace safe when you have your baby in
with my son.
Yeah,
and
I
my
know.
foot hit her
I
brother.
understand. Believe me, madam. I understand.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Get out of here. Parts is $101. Body labor, $195.20. That you'll pay for yourself. Ridiculous. A, whatever you did to each other in that parking lot, you did to each other. Whether you started to pull her hair or she started to pull your hair, both acted like idiots. My problem is that after this altercation, you went to her house.
I didn't go to her house.
To her apartment complex. And that was stupid.
It was.
So if your car got damaged going to her apartment complex, you pay for it. You pay for your own stupidity. But I find that you had absolutely no reason to kick her car. I also find that this is an inflated estimate of repair. So I'm going to give you the cost of the parts, which is $101.26. You paid to have it fixed yourself. That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff, $101.
Versus Mosley. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young folks, have a seat, please.
The mothers were not at this birthday party, is that right?
That's correct.
But from what I read, and I will speak to the children who were involved, you are suing Miss Mosley because, according to your complaint, the actions of her son caused your daughter to break her foot.
That's correct.
And you are suing her for $5,000 for sordid medical bills and, I assume, some part of that for pain and suffering. Is that right?
Correct.
Well, I have to figure out what happened. So I'd like the two of you to have a seat, please, while I speak to the children. You're Felicia.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you, Felicia?
I'm 12.
And whose birthday party was this?
One of the kids there, but I don't know their names. I was invited by my mom's friend's daughter.
And I gather that they had in the backyard one of these enclosed things where you go in and jump around?
Yes.
I've seen them. I grandchildren have them at their parties, and has walls all around it, and kids sort of go in, they take off their shoes, and they jump around like crazy.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were in this apparatus, and Devon was there.
Yes.
How many other kids were in the jumping apparatus?
A couple of them, but some couldn't go in there because they were wet, because they were swimming.
So tell me what happened when you were inside.
Let me see. When I first went in there, I was jumping around, and Devon kept pulling me over, pushing me down, and Rachel down. I told him to stop, and he just kept on doing it. And then I told him to stop at the point where he stopped. Then what happened was he started saying, like, I want to pick my pillow, I want to jump on my pillow, and I love my pillow like an armadillo and things like that. And then he started...
He was just being a boy.
Yes, and then what happened was he was jumping on top of girls, and he was on top of girls, they were asking him to get up and all that stuff. And then other girls, they just didn't pay attention, they didn't let him off. So what I did was I dragged him off saying, get off of her, because I didn't, it's not fair that he was on top of her.
So you went over where he was involved with another child, and you physically pulled him off.
Yes, I said, get off of her.
No, listen to me. You physically pulled him off.
Yes, I did.
Okay, what happened next?
And then what happened was he started doing it to me. And then what happened
What do you mean he started doing what to you?
He started jumping on top of me.
Okay.
And then he started to do it more, and I told him to stop. Then he got on top of me and said, how come my pillow has such soft legs? I said, get off me. And then he started saying that, how come my pillow has such a big butt? And then I said, just get off me, back up before I slap you. It didn't feel right. He just was talking about my body and saying this and that. And then it just got to the point where I got mad and I hit him physically. And then...
Where did you hit him?
Hit him on the back, trying to get him off me. He was on top of me. I was trying to hit him on the back, right? Because I got so sick of it. I went to go get a drink of water. I stepped out the apparatus and I went to go get a drink of water. And there's so many kids, you know, I didn't notice that he was still in there. Then he was in there, and I said, oh, not you again. And then he said, I want to rape my pillow. I just looked at him like disgusted at him. And then what happened was some of his friends or some other friends, guys came in.
By this time, there were a lot of people in there.
Yes.
Ah, okay. Because we started out with just a few, now we got to a lot. There were a lot of people in there.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're still in there?
Yes.
Okay. You haven't gone out for your drink of water yet?
Yes, I have.
Did you go out and come back?
Yes, because I didn't notice that.
Just a second. So you went out and got your water, and then you came back.
I didn't realize that he was in there, ma'am.
Don't tell me what you realized. You went out, you came back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then what happened?
And then what happened was his friends came in there, and then they started, like, tackling me and pushing me down, kicking me, punching me. And then I was just, like, on the balloon floor, and what happened was I got kind of fed up, and I got mad, and I started hitting them back. And then what happened was I got mad at a full adrenaline force. I just started hitting them back. And then I started hitting them back. And then okay. And then I just hit
Felicia, I want you to hold on a second.
Okay.
And try to compose yourself. You want to take some water? Okay. Now, Felicia, they were pulling you.
No, they were like hitting me, punching me.
Where were they hitting you and punching you?
They were like on the right side of the balloon. They started hitting me and pushing me. I don't know if the adults thought.
I'm not talking about pushing. That's what you do inside those things. You push everybody down and you jump on top of them. I mean, that's what that stupid thing is for. I'm talking about punching.
Yeah, they hit me. They kicked me. I saw Devon. They hit me. They were wrestling me like you do on TV. And then what happened was Devon.
That's his friends.
Right, and then Devon, he was doing flips on me. He missed me several times or more. And then he started coming at me, towards me. And I kicked him away from me. I pushed him because I got mad. I started hitting his friends in self-defense. And then when I was leaving, someone said, look behind you. I looked behind me. I saw a foot come at me. And so when I went to when I touched the ground, I saw my foot go like that and it bent. And while I was crying and suffering, they were all, I'm going to say a couple of curse words. Will you allow me? They were saying this is in trouble and call the ambulance and all that stuff and just making fun of me, laughing and just saying derogatory remarks at me. And then when they lifted me up, and put me on a chair, I saw behind me and he was just playing a Game Boy. And he didn't even apologize.
And you got hurt and you broke your foot.
Yes, I had to get surgery.
Okay. Let's hear.
Well, everyone in the jumper was wrestling, and she came in and she asked could she play. So we started playing, and then, like, she got out because she said she didn't want to play anymore. And she came back in, and we were all wrestling, and we were having flip contests, and I accidentally hit her because she was in the way. And then
Who were you wrestling with?
Well, the guys were wrestling with the girls. And then I stopped wrestling with her. I started wrestling with my cousin. And I pinned my cousin on the ground. And then she came over and she dragged me and she said, get off, and she kicked me. And then everyone else started wrestling again. And there was water and soap on the ground from the kids who were swimming. So it was slippery, and she was leaving, and I slid and I hit her. And she fell out and twisted her leg.
Well, when you slid and hit her, is that the exact moment that she fell down?
Yes.
So you did, in fact, kick her.
Yes.
And according to you, it was a little bit of an accident.
Yes, it was.
Maybe.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Anything else that you would consider sexual? What does that mean?
I was thinking.
Well, think harder.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 12-year-old Felicia Hunter says 11-year-old Devon Miller broke her foot while clowning around in a jumping apparatus.
How many times did she hit you? I'm not talking about playing around and pushing. I'm talking about hitting you.
About twice.
And how many times did she pull you off this other girl that you were on top of? Just once? Were you annoyed with her?
Kinda. I stopped playing with her.
But you were annoyed with her. Did you think she was acting like a jerk?
Yes.
Why did you think she was acting like a jerk?
Because I wasn't playing with her and she just started hitting me.
Because she was interfering. Is that right?
Yes.
So you thought she was butting into your business?
Yes.
I have a couple of other questions to ask you, Devon. So far, you've been very honest with me, which is in your favor. Were you saying anything to her about sleeping on your pillow?
No.
And did you say anything to her like that?
I didn't say anything to her. I told my cousin that she was my pillow.
Okay, but when you're playing, you're not whispering that to your cousin. You're sort of saying it loud, right?
Yes.
So she was right there, so she heard you. Devon, right?
Yes.
So far, you're doing okay, Devon. Don't let me down now. Did you say anything, Devon, about her having a soft part of her body?
No.
Nothing else about raping your pillow?
No.
Anything else that you would consider sexual?
No.
What? What does that mean?
I was thinking.
Well, think harder. You don't go to jail for this, Devon. This is just the time for honesty. Okay? So let's hear.
No.
Nothing else?
Nothing.
Did you say anything to anybody else there about her of a sexual nature?
No.
You knew her from before this party?
No.
Or was it the party the first time you ever saw her?
First time.
Really? Did you know the other kids at the party?
Not
Some of them?
everyone.
What did you think of her, Devon, when she first started to play with you?
I thought she wanted to play because we were all wrestling and she just started playing.
Now, Felicia, why did you go back into the jumping apparatus when you left and got a drink if it was unpleasant in there?
I didn't notice that he was in there.
I know what these things look like. Unless there are 50 people in there, then you notice somebody is in there. Or you look if somebody has made your life unpleasant.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Right.
You know, you're 12?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're smart enough. If somebody's made your life unpleasant in there, you look. You say, I'm not going back in there because those guys are acting a little too wild. Because they were all acting a little wild.
That wasn't my fault.
Right. Okay, now I'll see the moms. No, I want you kids to stay up there. If you can stand, can you stand up on your foot, Felicia?
I can't put any weight on it.
No, I mean, but can you stay with your mom?
Yeah.
Or you want to sit down?
I'll stay.
Okay. All right, so you got to the party, took her, she was x-rayed, foot is broken. This happened late August, is that right?
Right.
And you have substantial medical bills?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have health insurance?
Yes.
What were your unreimbursed medical bills?
Well, to date, Your Honor, our medical expenses are approximately $9,157.92. And I don't know if that is the extent of that.
$9,000 if you have medical insurance is not going to be your bill.
Well, yeah, that is the total. That's the total amount of bills that have come into the.
It's not what I'm talking about, Ms.
Okay.
Hunter. Okay, you have insurance.
That's correct.
And you are going to use your insurance because that's what insurance is for.
That's correct.
What kind of plan do you have?
20% of the contracted fees.
Mm-hmm.
Plus a $250 deductible.
Okay, let me see that, please.
What, the bills?
I want to see the bills in your contract where it says that you're responsible for 20%.
Okay. Here are the bills. And this is a summary of our medical plan, and this is the plan that I'm under. I circled it.
Okay. So your office visits, you have the $10 copay, is that right, for your office visits?
Yes.
Okay, and the hospital, you have to pay 20% of your hospital bill.
Right.
So you had a hospital bill of $7,262, is that right?
That's correct.
And then you had orthopedic surgical?
Mm-hmm.
Was that done at the hospital or the doctor's office?
The doctor's office. That was for the cast.
Is your portion of that $10? You don't know that?
No.
I mean, there's a tremendous bill, but that's an entire bill.
Right.
It says doctor's office visits are $10. When did this happen?
August the 26th.
Well, did you submit these bills?
They've been submitted to the insurance company.
Have you paid any of these bills?
They have not paid.
No, have you paid any of the bills?
No, I have not been billed for them.
Your problem, Miss Hunter, is as follows. You want the defendant's mother to be responsible for $5,000, and I have no idea of what your out-of-pocket expenses are going to be.
Well, I'm not suing I know that my responsibility will probably not exceed $2,000. That's the 20% that I'm responsible for. Now, beyond that, I'm suing Miss Mosley for punitive damages for what the injury that her son has caused my daughter.
No. Listen to me. There are certain things that children do that I believe that their parents knew or should have known that they had that kind of propensity, and they allowed the child to, for instance, have access to a weapon, have access to a gun, have access to a knife, have access to certain things, then they are responsible. When you send your child to a birthday party and they choose and elect, at your daughter's age, she's a big girl, she's 12 years old, to go into an apparatus where kids are acting like fools, 12-year-olds, they're jumping all over each other. According to your daughter, she was the one who first put her hands on him. I mean, other than in play. She didn't like the way he was on top of another girl. She dragged him off. She slapped him at one point. Now, I'm absolutely certain that Devon, although he did a very stupid thing, didn't mean for your daughter to break her foot.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He put his hands on me and on my legs, and then he pushed towards me.
That's what kids do in that thing. You stay there for a long time.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Felicia Hunter says she was harassed and assaulted by 11-year-old Devon Miller. She claims it resulted in a broken foot.
Now, Felicia.
Your Honor, I have something to say.
What?
Beginning when I first entered, he put his hands on me and on my legs, and then he pushed towards me.
That's what kids do in that thing, Felicia. That's what you get in there for. You stay there for a long time. If you went in there and the kids were jumping around and pulling you down, at your age, you say, I don't like this kind of game. I'm going to go out and find something else to do with this birthday party if you didn't like that game. You know that. We're not playing pin the tail on a donkey here. You know, that's a nice quiet game that kids used to play. They don't play that anymore. Now they rent these big apparatus and kids go in there and they act like fools, but you're 12 years old. If it was getting too rough, you get yourself out of there. I'm not blaming you for breaking your foot, but I certainly don't believe that he intended to cause you to break your foot, or more importantly, that his mother had any notice or any knowledge that he was going to do something that day to injure somebody, and nor did she provide him with the apparatus to do it. You understand? If a parent, for instance, leaves a set of car keys in the car and leaves a 6-year-old in the car, and the 6-year-old manages to turn on the car and drive, and the car starts to roll and they injure somebody, then the parent is responsible for the action of the 6-year-old or the 8-year-old or the 10-year-old or the 12-year-old. But in this case, what proof do you have that this woman had any inkling that her son was going to do something like that?
Well, I don't, but she is responsible for the actions of her child.
Just a second. There you are right to this extent, Miss Hunter. There's no question that Devon here gave her a little nudge when she was getting out of the jumping station, right? You say it was an accident, you slipped on water. I'm not so sure, Devon.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I believe that Miss Mosley would be responsible for your unreimbursed medical bills. He caused the damage. Somebody's got to be responsible for out-of-pocket. And I believe that that should be Miss Mosley. But you don't know what your out-of-pocket is yet. We're going to do this. You wait until you get a statement as to what your insurance paid.
Okay.
Miss Mosley, you will be responsible for any unreimbursed medical bills. I can tell you both that you should be able to handle this without coming back to court and say, here are my bills, here are the checks that I was given from the insurance company, here are the outstanding bills, you cover them.
Okay.
If you can't do that, I'll dismiss your case without prejudice. You can come back to me with the bills and I will order her to pay that. Do you understand? So let's be perfectly clear. You're suing for $5,000. There is no way that I am going to award you punitive damages against Miss Mosley because there is no indication that she knew her son would be involved with that kind of physical activity on that day. Okay. I do, however, believe, as I indicated, that between the two of you, you should not have any out-of-pocket expenses.
Okay.
Your daughter wasn't too smart. She's not blameless in this thing. She stayed there. She participated in the frivolity, right?
Yes.
She did put her hands on him.
Yes.
So I don't believe that either one of these two kids entered that arena that day intending that she end up with a broken foot and all that surgery that was required to make her whole again.
Okay.
So, do you want me to enter an order that, Miss Mosley, you will be responsible for any unreimbursed medical bills as they are presented to you?
Yes.
Good. That's all. We'll prepare an order that the defendant shall be responsible for any unreimbursed medical claims arising out of this incident.
Quintana versus B. Hill. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ladies. Have seats, please.
Mr. Quintana, the defendant assaulted you,
Yes, ma'am.
and you were injured.
Yes.
This happened in a mall,
Yes.
and he assaulted you by punching you in the face.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of injuries did you sustain?
I lost my front tooth and hit to the head, so I had to go to the emergency room.
And you don't deny that you hit him?
No, ma'am, I do not.
And you didn't know him before?
No, ma'am, that was the first time I've ever seen him before.
So why don't you tell me why you hit him?
Well, it all started, my girlfriend told me that he had been dropping by and trying to get her phone number and get a date with her.
This is your girlfriend?
Yes, this is my girlfriend. Monique.
Step up here. You work in the mall?
I did.
And when, for the first time, did you see the plaintiff?
On October 4th, I believe.
He came into where you were working?
Yeah.
He came up to you and you had a conversation with him?
He asked me for my phone number, and I told him that I had a boyfriend.
When did you see him again?
The next day.
And tell me what happened.
He would go from Mervyn's to in front of Walgreens and stand there and watch me.
Like he had a crush on you?
Yeah.
So?
So he kept coming around and around. And
did he ever speak to you?
No, but he would have his friends speak to me.
Friends would come up and speak to you about him?
Yeah, ask me for my phone number for him.
What would they say?
My friend really likes you. He was wondering if he could have your phone number.
And you said no?
Yeah.
And how many times did his friends come up and ask for your phone number?
About 3 or 4.
And then what happened?
And he kept coming around and around. And I was having my mom come and meet me. And
well, he never came up to you, did he?
No.
Never said anything else to you, did he?
No, he was just watching me.
He was just standing around?
Yeah.
And you told your boyfriend about it?
Yes.
And then there came a time when you called your boyfriend, according to what I've read here, and said, he's here again.
Yes.
And what day was that?
October 15th.
And how many times had you seen him in total those 10 days?
Probably about 8, because I was off Sunday and he didn't come one day.
Now, so you call your boyfriend, you say he's here again. Boyfriend arrives, right?
Yes.
So what did you do when you arrived?
Well, I went over there. She pointed him out to me. I went up to him to tell him to leave her alone. He confronted me.
No. You went up to him.
Yes, she pointed him out to me. He was coming the opposite way from which I approached him.
So you went up to him and then you were face to face?
Yes, we had a confrontation.
Well, so far he doesn't even know who you are, so you can't have a confrontation. So you walk up to him and what did you say?
I had asked him
No, tell me what exactly you said.
to leave my girlfriend alone and to quit stalking her.
And what did he say?
There was a verbal exchange of
No.
profanities.
No, just tell me what he said to you.
There were some profanities said.
That's all right, I've heard everything.
I'm not stalking your girlfriend.
Okay, so that's what he said to you.
Yeah,
And then what did you say to him?
I told him that he better leave her alone.
Okay. And what did he say to you?
Nothing. That's when I thought he was going to hit me, so I hit him.
You thought he was going to hit you?
Yeah, he came towards me. I felt threatened. He came to me like he was going to hit me.
But he didn't hit you?
No, I hit him first.
Right. Now, what happened after he hit you?
Well, first, I never seen his face at all. He never talked to me. He never confronted me. So when he first hit me in the back of my head. And then that's when I started to turn around, and he punched me in the face. And that's when I guess I got my tooth knocked out. And he grabbed me by my hair and tried to hit me with his knee on my face. And he pushed me back down to the floor. And then when I got up, he had already left the mall, and I was asking who was it, and nobody knew who it was.
How did you find out who it was?
I found out who he was later on that night at the hospital.
Tell me about that.
Okay, my grandma took me to the hospital because my tooth had been knocked out, like it was all the way out. So I went into the emergency room, and we sat down, and we were sitting right in front of him, and I still didn't know who he was at the time. But my grandma was just joking around, and she says, well, he's got his hand wrapped up. Was that him? And I said, I don't know. I never seen who even hit me. And he got up and started telling me, well, you, and I'm going to kick you again. And
Does that sound familiar to you, about being in the emergency room?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
All right. Does it sound familiar to you that the two of you were in the emergency room together?
Yes, it does.
And when you got to the emergency room, was he there already?
No, I had arrived first.
So you're sitting there,
Yes,
and he walked in,
yes,
and he sat down.
yes.
He didn't say anything to you at first.
No.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Right. So it wasn't as if he recognized you right away.
I would
Right?
say he did recognize
I don't
me.
care what you say, what you think. He came down, he sat down in the emergency room. He didn't get up and say, that's the person who hit me.
No, he did not.
No. Let me see your medical bills.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She can attest that I did not jump him from the back.
Whether you jumped him from the back or whether you jumped him from the front, it doesn't make any difference, sir. You punched him and you punched him first. And he didn't know who you were from a hole in the wall.
And later today,
We were excellent friends. We were best friends. We did everything together. She meant a lot to me. I wanted to mend that friendship.
Because of your actions, your wife is upset.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Keith Quintana says Jacob V. Hill knocked out his tooth when he assaulted him. Jacob admits he hit Keith, but says he was stalking his girlfriend.
What was the success of trying to put your tooth back in the socket?
Well, since it was knocked out so soon, they said if they try to re-put it, it might just grow back, the root might just connect right away. And that's what they were hoping would happen. But there was an abscess, and they said, well, if it goes away, then everything will be all right, but it never went away.
So did they have to remove the tooth?
It's got to be removed, yes.
Ms. Belgard, if you were afraid of the plaintiff, why didn't you, instead of calling your boyfriend, why didn't you call the police?
I thought he would leave.
That doesn't make sense, madam. You say that for 8 days you've been concerned because he was hanging around where you were working, right? And if you thought he would leave, what did you call your boyfriend for?
Because I wanted my boyfriend to tell him to leave me alone.
Well, I'm asking you, why didn't you call the police?
I didn't think about it.
Well, your boyfriend certainly did tell him to leave you alone. But he told him to leave you alone in a way that caused him serious physical injury.
Your Honor, she can attest that I did not jump him from the back.
Whether you jumped him from the back or whether you jumped him from the front, it doesn't make any difference, sir. You punched him and you punched him first. And you punched him first because you were angry. And he didn't know who you were from a hole in the wall. And I'm not asking her to attest for anything because she didn't use her brains. Somebody is stalking you. If you believe that they're stalking you, then what you do is you call the police. You don't call your boyfriend to come and have a talk with him. That's not what you do. Because what happens is exactly what happened here. You assaulted him. You filed, I assume, criminal charges against him.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, what happened with that criminal case?
They're still
hasn't been set yet.
Is there a criminal case
No,
pending?
we had it. They dismissed it with no prejudices.
They dismissed it?
Yes, we went to court previously, and it was dismissed.
Why?
Without prejudice, because it was a pre-trial, and no conclusion came to the end. It didn't come to a conclusion.
Step up, please. Go ahead. You're his mother.
I'm his grandmother.
A young grandmother.
Thank you. Anyway, we did go to municipal court because of the charges, and they had already agreed that he would have to pay the medical bills, and then they came up with a conclusion that they were going to dismiss him without prejudice because my husband is the one that filed the original complaint, and even though we've raised him since he was little, we've never adopted him, so we're not his legal guardians. So him and his dad filed, and then Jacob filed a motion to dismiss because Keith's dad signed the complaint, and he wasn't a plaintiff because by this time Keith was already over 18.
They have any relatives that work in the police department?
I have no
Do
idea.
you?
No, Mom,
Do
I
you?
do not.
No.
You have any relatives that work in a district attorney's office?
No, I do not.
I never heard of such a lot of mumbo-jumbo in my life. The police are the complainants. The state is the complainant.
Well, his public defender also suggested to him, after the judge had told him that he had to pay, that maybe he should file bankruptcy.
It wasn't a public defender. My dad had hired a private attorney for it.
Oh, good. So your dad has money to hire a private lawyer for you?
No, but my dad's willing to help me out.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Sir, right here. No.
How many times you need to tell a guy no before he actually gets it through his head, you know?
There's all kinds of girls in Santa Fe, and I wouldn't stay stuck on just one if she tells me no, you know?
And now the next case.
All parties on George versus Pressler. Step forward, please.
31-year-old homemaker Robin George is suing her former best friend, 39-year-old educational secretary Peggy Pressler, for the return of her Barbie doll collection. Peggy is countersuing for the cost to stable a horse.
I'm going to review what I understand is the complaint here. At the end of that, I'm going to ask you if what I've indicated is correct or incorrect so that we can resolve this matter swiftly. All right? Okay. According to what I read, Miss George, you and the defendant were good friends. You were going through a rather acrimonious divorce, and you had a valuable Barbie doll collection.
That's correct.
You asked the defendant if she could hold them for safekeeping for you. Is that right?
She offered to keep them. It was her suggestion.
Fine. And you agreed, and you still have the collection?
Yes, ma'am.
When was this? In what year?
It was around October or September of '96.
Your complaint is that divorce proceedings are over, everything was finished, and she will not return the Barbie doll collection to you. When did you ask her for them?
In March of 1997, right before I moved from the state of Ohio to Florida.
Well, what took you so long to sue her?
Because I have very strong Christian beliefs, and I did not believe that that was the way you treated your good friend. And I wanted to try and mend it without going to these extremes.
All right. You still have her collection?
Yes, ma'am.
Your defense is as follows. Back then, sometime in 96, 97, around that time, this gentleman, you're the husband now?
Yes.
Then you were her boyfriend.
Right.
And you had an arrangement with him to board horses or something. You were going to split the cost of boarding some horses with him.
Co-own.
And he reneged on his part of the bargain, didn't pay for the boarding fees. You say you can have the doll collection back as soon as he pays for his boarding fees that he owes me.
Right.
Did you ever sue him?
No,
for the
ma'am.
money? Well, he's not a party to this action, Miss Pressler. She has no control over that. She has no control over what he owes you. You have to return her collection to her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You didn't pay for half, and you stuck her with half.
Well,
that's not the right thing to do.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robin George says former best friend Peggy Pressler won't return her collection of Barbies. Peggy says Robin's husband owes her for the cost to stable a horse.
What you're trying to do is set off what he owes you from this doll collection. You can't do that. They weren't even married at the time. She had no obligation to pay any part of what his agreement was as far as the dollar amount that he was to pay you. I understand that there was some talk at some point that he turned ownership over to you because he couldn't afford to keep them anymore. So now you own the horses yourself. Right. And what you think that he owes you were backboarding for before he turned ownership over to you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give her back her dolls. You mean you haven't spoken to each other since 1997?
Oh, no, we have. We've
Yes.
spent time together. And
So why hasn't this issue been resolved?
I initially wrote her the fall of 97 and told her that I would like to mend our friendship and that the dolls were just material items. However, I would eventually like to get them back. Our friendship was more important. And at that time, I did not hear anything from her. Again, I attempted in the fall of 98. I'm usually in Ohio in that time, and it always weighs heavily on my mind. I actually went, was that when I went to your house in 98?
No, 99.
I'm 99. I'm sorry, in 98, my mother, unbeknownst to me, approached Peggy to get the dolls back for me to surprise me for Christmas. And she said that she wanted Bob to take care of it and was not wanting the money from my mother. She wanted it from Bob. And that she would not give them to my mother. She felt like she was being used. I did not speak to her until the fall of 99, I'm sorry. And at that time, I went to her home and I knocked on her door and we talked. I wanted to mend our friendship. We were excellent friends. We were best friends. We did everything together. She meant a lot to me. And I wanted to mend that friendship. I did not want her to think that I was going to her house to get my dolls. That was not my intention. So I did not mention it until February. And at that time I emailed her because I found it difficult to discuss it with her in person. And I told her that in order for our friendship to completely mend, we needed to clear up the problem with the dolls.
How many dolls are there?
After all these long years, I cannot give you an exact number. But
how many dolls?
I have an exact list. We pulled the Barbies out before we came here and did an exact listing of them.
Okay.
There's approximately 13 dolls and 2 figurines.
I am not sure of the exact number. I figured there were more, close to 20, and I have a list of all the dolls that I came up with. I
can't look at that, madam. She says that she has, after 4 years, she has 13 dolls and 2 figurines.
And 2 figurines, yes, ma'am.
That's what she has. Then I have absolutely no reason to doubt her, and nor should you, after all these years. So within 5 days, the dolls have to be returned to her. Now, Mr. George, all I have to say to you is, do you feel as if you owe the defendant any money?
Should I?
Yes, stand up. You feel as if you owe her any money?
No, I don't. We stressed to her.
Just a second. You have to understand that if you didn't do the right thing and pay her the money that you were supposed to and that you agreed to pay her, you came in between a friendship, and that's the wrong thing.
Well, what I told her at the time was we went in together and bought this horse. And I told her since I went through my divorce, it costed so much.
We didn't buy the horse.
The horse was given to us. I at that time told her I could no longer afford the horse. I told her to pay off our bills.
When you went into this agreement with her, you said you were going to pay for half the boarding.
Right.
And you didn't.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You should have paid it. Somebody had to pay it.
Yeah, but...
Did you pay it every month?
I worked down at the barn in order to pay it, and I ended up using all of my work credit to pay for it, as well as writing a check for it.
That's not fair, Mr. George.
But my problem is, we gave her the option. We told her we would sell the horse at that time and use it to pay the board. She said no, she did not want to do that. So then I gave her the horse, which was worth probably $1,000, $1,500. I mean, I don't feel that I should owe her anything when I had paid for the transportation and the upkeep.
I did. I paid for the vet bills
But
in order to get her
split
there.
everything.
No, you did not. You did not pay me anything.
We split
you paid
everything.
Martha, who was
Mr.
the
George,
owner.
what you did was you didn't do the right thing because you interfered with a very, very long-standing friendship by not paying what you were supposed to, by taking on a responsibility, the boarding of this horse, and putting her in a position where for 4 months she had to assume your responsibility.
Well,
that's not the right thing to do. And whether after 4 months you said to her, well, you take the horse because I can't do it anymore, that's not relevant. What's relevant is that you said, I will pay for half. You didn't pay for half, and you stuck her with half. I can't deal with that now, but be open enough to understand that because of your actions, your wife is upset because she had a friend for a very long time, and that friendship was marred because you acted irresponsibly. Within 5 days, you're going to get your dolls. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Kreiner versus Scott. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Kreiner, you and the defendant had a sort of on and off relationship for several years, according to your complaint. And during that time, recently, he called you and asked you for a loan to fix his car.
Yes.
And how much money did you give him?
$1,200.
And the two of you have a child together.
Yes.
How old is your child?
3.
So you acknowledge that she gave you the $1,200 to fix the car. Your defense is, as well as a counterclaim, that there is a set-off. You do agree you owe her some money, that $1,200, but claim that she caused damage to your car she agreed to pay for. So since we have no issue with regard to the $1,200, let me hear about your counterclaim, sir.
Well, Your Honor, in June of '99, Eugenia came over to my house, and my girlfriend was there at the time. And she got real upset, and she went outside and ripped the windshield wiper off the rear of my vehicle.
Not true, Your Honor.
Shh, just a second.
And she
What was
went
she
over-
doing at your house?
My son was there, and
So she came to pick up your
she was
son?
coming over there, yeah, to get him. And she had been somewhere with my sister, and she was asking me about who was I going to be with, her or my girlfriend, and I told her I was with my girlfriend. So she proceeded to walk over to my car, and she ripped the windshield wiper off,
Not true.
and she damaged
You
it.
keep saying not true, and I keep telling you I'm going to give you a chance, madam.
Okay.
Now, what happened when she ripped the windshield wiper off your car?
She grabbed me again by the collar of my shirt and was yelling at me, why am I doing this to her, and that type of thing. And my sister said, well, I'm going to call the police so it doesn't go any further.
So were the police called?
They were called, but by the time my sister had already put her in the car and took her off, so I left and went to work.
Okay, so this was the back windshield wiper, did you
The
say?
rear windshield wiper of my vehicle.
What
I
kind
have
of
a,
vehicle do you have?
93 Chevy Astro. I have an estimate as far as the parts and what the labor costs for that. And I also have a photograph.
Now, did you, I'll see it.
Okay.
Did you ever discuss that with the plaintiff?
Yes, I
fixing
did.
It? When?
After it had happened, I told her that she owed me for the damages she caused to my vehicle. And she initially said that, yeah, I know I owe you, and I'll pay you back. Then what happened initially, my car broke down, and I was really in a pinch, and I needed to get to work. So I had to go to her and ask. I mean, we've been back and forth and different things, but I figured the fact that she owed me that $800, she could at least see for it to help me get it fixed. And then I do things for her all the time as far as taking her places and things because she's without a vehicle. So I figured.
Well, let me go back a little bit. You say that this happened in June of '99. So she was really angry with you in June of '99.
Yeah.
Well, between June of '99, when she ripped the windshield wiper off your car, and August of '99, when you called for the loan, had you made up?
I guess we had started speaking again.
We was
'cause-
engaged, Your Honor.
No, we weren't.
Okay, whatever. Okay.
But no, during that time, I ended up, she still needed rides to different places and that type of thing. I guess you could say we had somewhat made peace. And then she had also told me that she was going to pay for the vehicle. So I was kind of stupid again, thinking that, okay, she's going to change and she's not going to do those type of things to me anymore.
What you do to me? What you do to me?
Shh. Miss Kreiner, you went over to pick up your son at his house.
Yes.
And he was there with another young lady.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to tell me what happened on that date.
Me and his sister Stephanie, we went out shopping that day, and I came back to pick up my son. And he was there with another young lady, and I asked who was it, and he was say, "Don't worry about it, don't worry about it." And it led from there. I mean, we was arguing. It was like physical, but as damaging his van, I did not.
Physical by who?
We're not going to get into that, but we have been physical.
So it got physical?
Yes.
Because you were angry?
Yes.
And what you're telling me is you didn't damage the van?
No, I did not.
Mm-hmm. Was your sister a witness?
Yes, she was.
Where's your sister today?
My sister had to work today.
What's your sister's telephone number?
323-777.
And what is her name?
Stephanie.
Let's see. this Stephanie? Stephanie, this is Judge Judy Sheindlin. Miss Kreiner is here along with your brother, Mr. Scott, with regard to an incident that occurred back in June of 1999, and I understand that you were present. You were out shopping with Miss Kreiner. You came back to your brother's house. Their little boy was there, and then there was an altercation with Miss Kreiner and your brother. Do you remember that? Yeah, okay, I thought you might. Can you tell me what, if anything, you observed with regard to the windshield wiper on the back of your brother's car? And you saw that? Okay. You are very, very kind. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yes, you did.
Oh, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
That's not true.
Oh, sure it is. She, and not only that, but she was a peacemaker. She was the one who said to you, let's just get in the car and I'll take you home. She did.
No.
You did get into the car and she did take you home, did she not?
Yes, she did.
Was your son with you?
Yes, he was.
And you did put your hands on him because that's what she said you did. You grabbed him by the collar. You grabbed him by the collar and you pushed him.
That's not true.
Oh, sure it is.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I never had any problem with paying her. I mean,
Well, this happened in August. She lent you the money in August, right?
And later today,
You braid one section, you have the other section not braided?
Yeah.
Doesn't that look silly?
Yes.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Eugenia Kreiner says ex-boyfriend Eric Scott owes her for a loan to fix his car. Eric says Eugenia owes him for tearing off his windshield wiper in a jealous rage.
The only problem that you have, Mr. Scott, is your counterclaim was for $800. According to the bill that you gave me, the cost of replacing this system that she pulled out was $408.01.
Initially, when I got the first estimate, they had done one that included the labor charges and that involved in that. But what had happened, it's been a while, and she was saying she was going to pay me. I figured I'd give her time to get that money back.
Whatever. It's not $800. It's only $400.
That's just for the parts alone, Your Honor.
Don't you have a separate bill for labor?
When I went to go get the one for the labor, he wrote that on there, and that's why he gave me his business card.
Well, even that is only $540. So where do you get $800 from?
Because the initial one that I initially
was
got
more.
was
Okay,
more.
so $540. So even if I give you credit for that, she lent you $1,200. You still owe her $660, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you got to pay her.
No, I didn't. I never had any problem with paying her.
Well, this happened in August. She lent you the money in August.
No, my issue was when I told her I was going to deduct what she owed me to get my vehicle fixed, and I told her I'd give her that. She said no, she wanted it all.
Go ahead.
He told me that he was going to pay me in a timely manner, okay? In September of '99, on my son's birthday, a week before my son's birthday, I said, can I have my money? He said, no, because I got to pay for Jerome's party. Christmas time, I got to help Jerome with some stuff for Christmas. So New Year's, okay, when I get my tax return, it's always off and on, off and on.
Are you telling me you never had a discussion with him where he said to you, you know, you broke the windshield wiper? No. I'm not asking you whether you did it or not. I'm asking you whether you ever had a discussion with him where he said that he wanted to deduct what was due and owing to fix his windshield.
No.
You never had a discussion with him? He never said to you, I'm going to pay you, but I'm going to deduct the amount of the windshield?
No.
Your Honor, I told her that on several occasions.
Okay. I find that she is responsible to fix the windshield. I believe that it happened. You do, however, owe her some money, sir.
Yes, Your
You owe her $660. Pay her.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I did owe her the balance of the money, but the only thing was I just didn't feel that I should have to pay her all the money when she did owe me for damaging my vehicle.
It was a total lie. I did not do that. I mean, of course his sister go stand up for him.
And now the next case.
All parties on Hill versus Curlette. Step forward, please.
17-year-old student Ashley Hill is suing her hairdresser, 28-year-old micro-braid technician Lysandra Curlette, for services not rendered and an assault.
Miss Hill, the defendant was your hairdresser. You were going to your senior prom. You paid her in advance to braid your hair.
Yes, ma'am.
Your lawsuit says she not only failed to complete the job of braiding your hair, but she also, when you went there that last time, she assaulted you. As a result, you missed the prom.
Yes.
How long does this braiding process take?
It usually take about a couple weeks.
A couple of weeks? How many hours altogether?
30.
30 hours? You mean you have to sit in a chair for 30 hours to have your hair done?
Yes.
Just explain for my own information. What do you do, different sections at each time?
Yes.
Well, what happens to one section? You braid one section, you have the other section not braided?
Yes.
Doesn't that look silly?
Yes. Sometimes, if it's not finished.
And how much did you pay her?
$300.
All right, so now tell me what happened on the 6th of May.
I went to her house about 9 o'clock in the morning.
You had an appointment?
Yes. And she was working on other people up until about 2 o'clock. And I asked her if she...
So what do? You just sat there from 9 to 2?
Yes.
So at about 2 o'clock, what happened?
I asked her if she wanted me to come back later, and she got an attitude with me and told me to go sit down. So I went and sat down, and I was talking to another client, and I was telling her I don't see how she got mad at me because I asked her if she wanted me to come back. Another client, I believe her witness, she went back and told her something. I have no idea what she told her. And then she was yelling and screaming at me. Then she was like, well, I think you need to leave. So I said, okay, well, I'm about to leave. As I was approaching the door, she jumped in front of the door and was pushing me into the wall and grabbing on me and all that. And I was like, well, I want to leave. And she was like, no, you ain't going nowhere. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to stay in here and let you put your hands on me. She finally moved out the way and let me leave. And on the way out, she said, thanks for my $300 and don't come back.
Well, were you injured in any way?
No, I just had scratches and bruises on my arm.
Well, that's injury. So now tell me why you didn't go to the prom.
Because my hair wasn't done and my dress was sleeveless and I had scratches and stuff all on me.
Nah.
I mean, but you can see my hair is... I couldn't go to the prom with my
well,
hair
you had
looking
between
like this.
May 6th and May 21st to find somebody else to finish up the job. Why didn't you do that?
Because don't nobody braid hair exactly the same way she does, and it wouldn't have looked right. That's like having one person do half of your head and another person do the other half of your head.
Did you try?
I don't know nobody else that braid hair.
Did you look in the phone book?
And plus, I would have had to pay somebody else to braid the other half or all my hair, and that would have been another couple $100.
So the answer is you didn't try?
No.
What'd you do with the dress?
It's hanging up in my closet.
That sounds very foolish to me.
And what else was I supposed to do with it?
You're supposed to get somebody else to finish your hair, do it yourself, take out the braids, do something, and go to the prom, because you only have one prom to go to.
I know.
That's what you do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You took the 3-year-old toddler to get your hair done for a whole weekend. Didn't take your child out to the park, didn't take him out to a zoo. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Well, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ashley Hill says she wasn't able to go to her prom because micro-braid technician Lysandra Curlette refused to finish her braids. Ashley is also suing for an assault.
All right, Miss Curlette, tell me your version of the events of the 6th of May.
Well, Your Honor, she came in that morning, about 8:30, 9 o'clock that morning, okay? I had been up for like 2 or 3 days because this process takes a long time. Everyone is issued out one of these, okay? And it specifically states about the patients in here on each page.
Okay, can I see it, please?
They know to call in, to check in, to make sure that they have time.
All right,
for
did she
me.
call you on May 6th?
No, she did not. It was set up the day before when I, in return, picked her up from school and her son from daycare. So if I had no intentions on finishing, why would I go to those extremes?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Right.
So you were really more than just her hairdresser.
Right, exactly.
Did she, on the 5th, you have a child?
Yes.
How old is your child?
3.
How old are you?
17.
The day before this happened, did she work on your hair?
Yes, but that's not the day
No,
that
no.
she came and picked me up from school.
Was there a day that she took you home, picked your child up from daycare, drove you home?
Yes, many a time she's taken me home because I'd be over there to about 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's only by choice, because you can leave at any time you like, and you can come back. She laid around on the furniture, slept, ate. You weren't just sitting there. She had a ball, Your Honor.
Well, I assume
Because
that
I'm not a boring person. I try to keep everybody entertained because I know it takes a long time.
So tell me what happened on the 6th.
Okay, when she came in that morning, I told her, just give me a second. I had another person drop a child off to me that's about 2 or 3 years old. It only takes about an hour or two to do the child's hair.
So I'm, of course, going to put the child first ahead of everybody because you don't want a toddler going crazy on you while you're sitting there trying to make them be still. So just go in there and sit down, and I'll be with you in a hot second. I'll be there in a minute. Okay. She goes in there and sits down. That's when she starts bad-mouthing me to another client that
To
she
this
does not
client?
know. Yes, ma'am. She was in there.
Step up.
This is not the particular
not
client that
to
she was
me.
talking to.
But I was there.
And you heard what was going on inside? Well, step up, please. Tell me your name.
Crystal Blaine.
Could you tell me what you heard the plaintiff say on that date?
She was in the living room and she was telling another girl she was taken all day and that it is times when she's over there all night long and that she never gets touched.
Okay. Somebody came and told you what the plaintiff was saying about you.
Exactly.
And what did you do?
I started talking to her, and I was like, Ashley, I can't believe that you're sitting out here saying these things about me as much as I've done for you. All of a sudden, she tried to leave, start crying, screaming, I didn't say just going ecstatic. And we tried to restrain her from leaving. That's
Why?
about all. Because she didn't have a ride. She's 17 years old.
What did you do to restrain her?
Nothing, just held her back from the door. Exactly.
And then what happened?
And then she got ecstatic, crying. We opened the door, let her go. I said, thank you very much, because you know there is no refund.
After she left on that date, did you receive a phone call from her?
No, ma'am,
or
I
a
did not.
communication from her in an attempt to set up another appointment?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Ms. Hill, did you in fact call her?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I didn't want to go back over her house after she put her hands on me. That's why I just want my money back, that's all.
Okay. Takes about how many visits to get your hair done?
It's up to her. Sometimes I stayed over there like April the 14th. I stayed over there the whole weekend.
And the whole weekend she worked on your hair?
No. That weekend she didn't work on me at all.
So what'd you do over there a whole weekend?
Just sit and wait.
Well, come on. Who watched your baby?
That weekend he was there.
Miss Hill, are you telling me you took your 3-year-old toddler to somebody's house to get your hair done for a whole weekend? Didn't take your child out to the park, didn't take him out to a zoo. You sat because you wanted to get your hair braided? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Well, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Okay. A, you did not make an attempt to go back to have her finish the hairdo, which you could have done. And then you could have sat there for another 5, 6 to 7 days, because if that's your order of priorities, you probably would have done that. But in any event, she is not allowed to, under the law, put her hands on you. I do find that you did suffer physical scratches on your arms, no serious injuries. That was not a basis for you not to go to the prom, to let your dress hang in a closet. I mean, if you wanted to go to the prom, you certainly could have. But Miss Curlette has to know that she can't put her hands on you. And you should, Miss Curlette, not work when you're stressed.
Can I tell you why I got upset?
Yes.
Because me and Ashley were better than that. Ashley knows that I put my heart into whatever I do for her and her son.
I believe that that's true, so you were hurt. In addition, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies have seats.
Mr. Truelove, are you still legally married to the defendant?
No, ma'am.
According to your complaint, your wife filed false allegations against you of either domestic violence or terrorist threats, and ultimately that case was dismissed. You want to be reimbursed for both the cost of your attorney as well as the time you missed from work.
Correct.
When were these allegations lodged?
I made a police report with the Huntington Beach Police Department on April 8th of 99. And I have the police report right here.
Can I see it, please? Okay. So you went into the police department. You told the police that you had been receiving these threatening phone calls from your husband. I assume that the threats had been revolving around this custody dispute that you had about your daughter. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
This police report talks about a restraining order that you had filed for.
Yes, I had. His lawyer had it thrown out of court.
Okay, so you filed for a
That's
restraining
untrue.
order. And was there a hearing with regard to that restraining order?
No, there was mediation assigned, and then I was told that the restraining order was thrown out of the court.
Why was the restraining order dismissed?
She got a temporary restraining order for 15 days. She told me don't bother showing back up to court, that she will not follow through with the restraining order.
Ms. Truelove, I want you to understand that I sat in the family court for many, many years. You got a temporary restraining order. You were told to return to court, and you were told that he would be served with that restraining order. Is that correct?
Yes.
did you in fact return to court?
I didn't return to court.
Okay, and that was dismissed.
Yes.
You didn't return to court, and it was dismissed after 15 days.
Yes.
That's what happened. Okay. All right. Now, did you have a trial? Were you arrested as a result of these charges?
No, ma'am.
How were you advised of these charges?
Through the mail.
Do you have what you received through the mail? Okay. This advises you that terrorist threat accusations were made against you to be in court on June the 4th, 1999. What happened when you went to court on June the 4th, Mr. Truelove?
The judge suggested that I get an attorney.
Okay, and when did you return to court after the 4th?
I have a document here showing all my court dates.
I'd like to see. You appeared on approximately 17 days.
Not myself, my attorney did.
And/or your attorney.
Yes, I did 11 court dates with my attorney.
Now, on the last day, which is May 2nd of the year 2000, the entire complaint was dismissed on the people's motion.
Correct.
Were you present in court on that date?
No, I wasn't.
Did you appear at all in court?
I was subpoenaed as a witness for the district attorney. That was my only involvement.
No, wasn't your only involvement. Your involvement in this case was you filed the initial complaint. Now, when you appeared in court as a witness, Ms. Truelove, were you questioned by attorneys before a jury?
I never appeared in court.
Were you at any time told to bring the tapes of these alleged threats?
The district attorney already had them.
That you had turned over to them?
Yes.
Okay. Were you advised why, sir, the people decided to dismiss these counts on their own motion, which means that they felt that they could not even sustain a limited burden on the people's case, no less beyond a reasonable doubt?
They thought Nicole had filed for divorce. When they found out that I had filed for divorce, things started changing, and then when they had got the evidence tapes, the audio tapes, come to find out they were blank. There were nothing on them. They dismissed it at that time. Those tapes kept going over a period of time. They had a hard time getting hold of them, and that's how long it lasted for them to get those tapes.
When did you turn the tapes over?
I don't remember the exact date. I was asked by the district attorney if I had any audio tapes, any kind of proof other than my log of what was happening. The only thing I had was an answering machine tape. Now, I had told him and I had advised him over the phone that he would be recorded every conversation. That was my mistake.
Untrue.
Well, if he was so frightened about these allegations of terrorist threats, Ms. Truelove, it would seem to me that an intelligent woman would have taped threats herself. You say that you received, according to your statement to the Huntington Beach Police, during a limited period of time, you received 15 or 17 phone calls from him.
Yes, I did. He was intoxicated that day.
I don't care whether he was intoxicated or not. You make those allegations because you say that they were threats. So why didn't you record those 15 conversations?
I was unable to do that. I had no way of doing that.
Well, then you say that the threats continued, Mrs. Truelove, well beyond that one period of time, so it gave you ample opportunities to go out and buy a little tape. Why didn't you do that?
I was not able to do that.
So what kind of tape, then, did you give to the district attorney's office?
My grandmother's answering machine tape.
And what was on that?
It was a conversation that we had had, and I had forgotten to press the record button the prior conversation. It was the second conversation that same afternoon.
So there was nothing on the tape?
Nothing that was threatening.
Nothing that was threatening?
No.
Okay. Now, I'd like you to tell me, Ms. Truelove, tell me about these threats that he made against you.
We were arguing. He called me, and this is when the threats started happening more in the same day. He told me that it was going to be custody granted by the courts, or it was going to be by my life. That's what I was told.
And?
And that's when I got scared, and that's when I made the report. I was scared to go and make the report with the police department.
Well, that's one threat. You talk about numerous threats, starting in February all the way up to the date you went to the police department. You've told me about one.
That was the time when it had happened so many times.
Well, tell me about the other times, Mrs. Truelove.
It was the same thing. Those were the words that he used every time. Because I wasn't letting him see our daughter. Because
why not?
Because when he would show up, he was under the influence of alcohol.
That's untrue.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So you both had an alcohol problem.
I wasn't in my active addiction at that time.
She wasn't drinking, she was using drugs.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tim Truelove says his ex-wife Nicole Truelove filed false allegations of terrorist threats. Nicole says Tim threatened to kill her.
Do you have visitation with your daughter now?
I do. I have 50% custody of my daughter, and I pay child support.
When you say 50% custody of your daughter, what days of the week do you see
I have
her?
her from Sunday to Sunday.
Every
other week.
Courts don't usually grant people with substance abuse problems 50% custody of young children, Mrs. Truelove.
We're both in recovery now.
So you both had an alcohol problem, according
Yes.
to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you both had an alcohol problem, Miss Truelove, according to you, then why would you not let him see his daughter if he showed up drunk if you were drinking too and you had the child with you?
Because I wasn't in my active addiction at that time.
She wasn't drinking, she was using drugs.
Which is why the court probably said, well, it can only get damaged 50% of the time with each parent. Let's hope for the best.
I didn't have an attorney. I didn't have any ways or means of getting an attorney.
Miss Truelove, did the child have a guardian during the course of these proceedings?
Me.
No. A guardian appointed by the court.
No.
Did the court conduct a trial or any forensic tests by psychiatrists, psychologists?
No.
Is what you're telling me you agreed on 50% custody?
Yeah, I did.
Well, there had to have been a trial. There had to have been a hearing.
She agreed to it.
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Did you agree to 50% custody if there was not a trial? Do you have any papers with regard to that?
All I have there is my attorney fees for how many times I had to show
No,
up.
that's not what I'm talking
No,
about.
I have
sir.
no papers.
Miss Truelove, did you, in fact, consent to an order of custody granting each of you 50% custody of the child?
I wasn't in the courtroom. I wasn't made aware of the court
you're
date
full of
when this
baloney,
happened.
madam. Unless the state of California runs very differently from every other jurisdiction, you were there. I mean, I don't understand whether you are passive-aggressive or what, but no court will grant an order of custody for a young child unless it's on consent of both parties, when the court is satisfied that the child is not at risk, or unless they've conducted a full hearing where the child is represented by a guardian. The child's interests are represented by a guardian. So either you consented or there was a trial. Now, you want to tell me which one it was?
I signed the divorce papers after the hearing had already occurred. I caught his lawyer in the hallway. That's when I signed the papers. I was not present at that hearing. That's what I was saying.
Papers, please.
I don't have a copy of divorce papers, Your Honor.
Have you ever been an inpatient in any rehabilitation program?
No.
Ever been an outpatient in any rehabilitation program?
Yes.
Where?
It was in SCI, Sentencing Concepts Incorporated. I went through a 3-year program.
When did it end?
When did it end? 3 years ago.
And in the last 3 years, have you abused drugs or alcohol?
Yes, when my husband and I were together.
Until the time you separated?
Yes.
So there really was no reason to deny him visitation with his child?
This was after the fact.
There really was no reason to deny him visitation with his child. Who are you?
My name's Lisa. I'm Tim's wife at this time. I was present during both conversations that allegedly happened on April 6th and April 8th. He was at my house at the time when his sister called and gave him a message that Nicole was trying to reach him. And I only heard his side of the conversation on the telephone, and both times were about getting visitation of their daughter Gwen, and both times he was saying, you know, you need to be reasonable, you need to work with me here, things like that. At no time did I ever hear him threaten Nicole. He's 41 years old. He's never been accused of any kind of crime like that before, and I've never heard or seen him threaten anyone. As a matter of fact, as Tim was saying, he has 50% visitation, which means that they need to do the custody exchanges every Sunday at 5 o'clock. And I frequently go with him during these custody exchanges. Nicole shows up pretty much most of the time by herself, which is not indicative of someone who is in fear for their life. He always takes another party with him because he's afraid of what Nicole might say. And he's been very, very careful. As far as the custody and the divorce, Tim has initiated and paid for every single one of the proceedings out of his own pocket.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the only thing I've ever threatened her with was she had hung up on me the night of April 6th, was that that you gave me no other choice except for to seek legal advice to get full custody of my daughter. And once I said that, that's when it all broke loose and all these terrorism threat things began because of me being working. I've had a job for a long term, and it just, she had stated to me at one time in the middle of July that she did it out of fear and that legal aid had advised her to find some kind of dirt on me in order to get a restraining order and to get temporary full child custody. And once she did that, I lost, there was no way I could even get 50% custody of my daughter at that time.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Being over at my girlfriend's house, I told her where I was at the time she slammed the phone down.
Does any of that sound familiar to you?
No.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tim Truelove is suing his ex-wife, Nicole Truelove, for attorney fees resulting from false allegations that he threatened to kill her.
Mr. Truelove, when did you and your former wife actually separate? Was that January 31st of 99 is when you separated?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And did you move out of the house or did she?
She did.
And did she take your daughter with her?
That's correct.
From January 31st, 1999 until April of 1999, did you visit with your daughter?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
It wasn't on a regular basis. It was whenever Nicole felt that I could. She was pretty much in control of the whole thing.
No, she
That's
had
the way she is.
She had the child living with her.
Yes.
Now, there came a point in April when you did have a problem with visitation. What was that problem with visitation, or March or April?
The problem was that was one of the conversations we had on the telephone. We had made arrangements for me to see my daughter on Thursday. She wanted me to see her on Wednesday. I had a prior commitment, so I asked for Thursday. She said, that's fine. At that time, being over at my girlfriend's house, she was my girlfriend at the time, heard a child, and she asked me where I was. I told her where I was at the time she slammed the phone down, and that's when I returned the phone call and told her, okay, you've left me no other choice except for to seek legal advice and to go for full custody of my child. And like I stated, that's when she had went to the police and made up this nice documents of me threatening her.
Does any of that sound familiar to you?
No.
Did you?
Some of it does, not all of it does, no.
Did you, in fact, have a conversation with him at the beginning of April regarding a change of the visitation from Wednesday to Thursday?
Yes, we did.
And was he, in fact, at his then-girlfriend's house?
I don't know where he was, Your Honor.
Okay. And was it during that conversation that he threatened you to seek full legal custody of the child?
Yes.
And was it 2 days later that you did, in fact, go to the Huntington Beach Police Department to report these terrorist threats?
Yes.
I got you. Let me see the legal bill. Do you, in fact, Miss Truelove, go alone to exchange your daughter for visitation?
Not every time, no, I don't, Your Honor.
Ever?
Yes, there are times when I have to.
What was the total amount you paid to your attorney, sir?
It's on the front page of that.
$1,721?
That's correct.
How much do you pay in child support?
I pay $38 a week, total $150 a month.
You don't pay any child support?
No, I don't.
Is that by agreement, since you have the child 50% of the time?
That was by agreement with the judge.
That
He
was-
granted the divorce.
That was an agreement by a district attorney. That wasn't an agreement by anybody but the district attorney.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do you work, Miss Truelove?
No, I don't. I had a job and I had to quit because my daughter was in the hospital.
How long was she in the hospital?
She's in the hospital often. She's a liver transplant patient.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can work every other week.
I can't hold the job only on opposite weeks.
So how do you support yourself?
Right now I'm on aid.
What kind of work had you been doing?
I was working at 24-Hour Fitness.
Your legal fees, sir, were $1,721. Those are your legal fees. And quite frankly, I see no reason for you not to have them. And I am awarding you your legal fees of $1,721. Miss Truelove, having been in this business for a very long time, I will tell you that certain patterns repeat themselves. And unfortunately, sometimes people try to get a leg up in the system, and one of the things that they do to get that leg up is to file restraining orders when they are factually baseless. The sequence of events in this case suggests to me, and your subsequent behavior in being in situations where you are alone with the plaintiff suggests to me that you had no legitimate fear of the plaintiff, absolutely none, and that in all probability you did seek some counsel. I can almost guarantee that you either spoke to friends or the Legal Aid Society, who you probably went to, correct? Correct?
Yes.
And they said to you, well, if you had a restraining order, that'll put a stop to this search for legal custody on behalf of a father. That always stops a court dead in its tracks. The timeline of these events in the beginning of April of 1999, when there was difficulty with visitation, suggests to me that the complaints that you made, especially since you delayed in turning over a tape that turned out to be baseless to the district attorney, turned out to be either blank or show absolutely no threats, suggests to me that these charges that you made against your then husband were absolutely without basis, and I believe that you should be responsible for his legal fees. I've ordered the judgment accordingly. Thank you.
I was excused, you may. Now, this is case number 83 in the matter of Grande versus Matson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Grande, you and the defendant lived together for a period of time, and you have a child together.
Right.
And it is your claim that when you separated, Mr. Matson kept some property that belonged to you and your daughter.
Right.
When did you commence living with Mr. Matson?
We were apart my whole pregnancy, 3 days before my daughter was born. She was born on the 12th. I moved back in with him.
The 12th of what?
The 12th of February was the day my daughter was born. 3 days prior to that is when I moved in.
12th of February?
Yeah.
Okay, so you moved back in a week before.
Mm-hmm.
And how long did that last?
It lasted 2 months.
And what happened?
Well, he was driving me to work. I get in the car. I notice on the dashboard of his car my child's sock. We used to always keep it in there because we thought it was cute to just have a little, baby sock on the dashboard. This particular day, I found marijuana on the sock, and I got very, very angry, and I said, is this the kind of father you want to be? And he had told me over 5 times since my daughter was born that he was no longer going to use drugs, but that was not the case.
Okay.
So the fight was over that.
And what happened?
He got all mad at me, told me I don't help out around the house, I don't do anything. He ended up calling the police, asking them to watch and escort me out of the house. I had less than 20 minutes to pack my things, and basically everything I was trying to gather up I couldn't even do. I was holding my baby, crying and begging, please don't do this. I had less than 20 minutes. I left.
Okay. And then what happened?
I moved to a friend's house, and I came back probably 2.5, 3 weeks later to retrieve my belongings, and I noticed.
Where was the baby during that time?
And the baby was with me.
Okay, and you came back to get your property. Had you made an arrangement with him to get your property?
Yes. He said, come and get your things, and I came, and then I noticed everything was gone. All of the stuff that I had laid out, he didn't pack. He told me he would pack my property and my daughter's.
What property?
Clothes, baby bottles.
Whose clothes?
My clothes and my daughter's clothes. Everything, all my grooming products. I had to leave with not even my toothbrush because I had less than 20. I left with the clothes on my back.
I would always take my toothbrush if I had 20 minutes. So you must have taken something in 20 minutes. What did you?
I left with my child's diaper bag and clothes for her and a stroller. I didn't even have a car.
So you're talking about personal effects and your daughter's clothes.
And mine.
Well, what clothes of yours? I mean, this is not a very easy thing to do. You can't speculate as to what clothes there are. You say clothes. What clothes?
He stole my sexy clothes probably because he doesn't want me to have them. I had this gown that was the $800 gown. I no longer have that. He stole CDs of mine and my labor and delivery tape, my ultrasound video, things to me that are priceless that the value of money cannot, replace.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Matson.
How you doing today?
Don't ask me questions. I ask questions. What happened?
We had a disagreement. It wasn't over what she's saying, but she's got a really volatile...
Just what was it over?
It was about her working.
Well, tell me about it.
She doesn't like to.
And?
She just gets really mad when she has to go do something that pertains to work. And I'd given her a ride to work. She was late. The guy told her to go home because she wore the wrong shoes. After I'd already left, she called me and told me to come back and pick her up. And she was just out of her mind then.
So this argument happened on your way. After you had dropped her off, she called you to come back and pick her up. Does that sound familiar to you?
No, I do work.
Now, just a second.
Okay.
The day of this incident, who were you working for?
I worked for this promotional company called...
Go ahead, Mr. Mattson.
Well, on my first way, I'd like to add, on my first way out after I dropped her off, she'd said, I hope you get in a car crash and die. But
Well, was that over the marijuana cigarettes?
it was about another fight.
Okay. But did she find the remnants of drugs in the car?
No, she did not.
All right.
And I have a clean drug test here to prove everything.
Okay. What prompted you to take a drug test?
Because she alleged that in our child custody case. So the second she did that, I went and took a test.
Did you take a hair follicle test or a urine test?
A urine and blood.
Okay.
The issue over her clothes, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
is we together put all of her clothes in this trailer that was on the side of my house, and I gave her permission to to retrieve them out of there. I have pictures of her clothes boxed. I have her things hanging up in the trailer. I have pictures of all of her things in boxes that she helped put in there, and I helped her load them into a minivan when she came over to retrieve them.
Did you take those things?
Yes, I did.
Fine. So you took the things that he had put in boxes. Now, things that you're talking about here, my baby's first footprints, the birth certificate, etc. What's the etc.?
All of her clothes.
Okay. Who purchased the clothes?
The clothes, I was the number one person at the
purchased?
church, my friends, and myself.
Where did you purchase the clothes from if you told me you weren't working?
This is during my pregnancy.
Where were you working during your pregnancy?
I worked at in Associates. It's a promotional company.
Your Honor, the day I loaded her van for her, I videotaped that, and she didn't inventory any of the boxes. And she went directly to the police station from there, just claiming that I had stolen everything, and filed this report from there.
Okay.
And also there was a 9-dresser drawer that we had dedicated just to the baby things. From that, I kept 2 drawers worth of clothes, and I also have partial custody of the child, and I need some clothes for the child.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right, sir. You should absolutely have some of the baby's things.
And to prove her character, here's a ransom note for the child, proving, says, number 1, I want $10,000 before we get back together. Type of person she is. I had to file a restraining order because I'd given her $1,200 over the weekend to fix her car to get the baby around while we were not together, and she was living with somebody else.
Let me see the papers.
On Monday, she called me to tell me she was taking the baby. She got in a fight with her next guy, and she was going to take the baby to Nebraska. So I filed the restraining order to keep the baby here in the States.
And I assume that that was granted, that she is
Yes, it
prohibited
is. Yes.
from removing the child from the jurisdiction without
Yes.
your consent. What?
Actually, that's not what happened. He kidnapped my child from me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This person lives in a $500,000 home.
Is that the home you were living in with him?
Mm-hmm.
Was it comfortable?
Not really.
And later today,
The initial problem was created by you. You personally, not her.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Frishta Grande claims the father of her child, Mark Mattson, stole her baby's belongings and her clothes.
How can he kidnap his child?
Well, what happened was I told him, if you don't help me find a home after you just left me, I have no choice but to move to Nebraska with my family, where they're going to support me. He just kicked me out the week before. Of course, I didn't trust him. I asked him to watch my child for me while I went to a computer class and looked for an apartment. When I came to pick her up, that's when he petitioned for the restraining order and everything. He had her for 4 days. I have right here on his own from a letter from my attorneys stating that he returned my daughter to me. This is when she's 2 months.
So what? You're both parents. You each have equal right to custody until a court says otherwise. He can't kidnap his own child.
He was gone.
Just as you can't kidnap, because you each claim that the
told him
other...
I wasn't...
Shh, I'm speaking. He can't kidnap his own child, nor can you kidnap your own child unless there is a prior custody order.
Your Honor, and as far as this case is over, the things that she's missing, if you wanted to call the next guy who lives at the beach that she ran off with, he has a garage full of things. He's called me. He and I have become friends since because she ousted herself from his house. He and I have become friends since then, and
What's
I'm
his
supposed
name? From the defendant's house, did you move into Mr. house?
Yes, I stayed 1 week.
He's
Do
requesting.
you have anything at Mr. house?
Yeah, I have baby furniture, and I'm moving into my apartment tomorrow.
Where did you get the baby furniture from?
I got it for $100 at a garage sale.
Okay.
This is a list of receipts that he made a copy of everything he purchased for our daughter. And the total money that he has spent on his daughter is $418. When this person lives in a $500,000 home, has 3 companies.
Is that the home you were living in with him?
Mm-hmm.
Was it comfortable?
Not really. He
If
always
he's
has
living in a
people over.
just a second. If he's living in a $500,000 home, madam, it must be either a very luxurious 2-room $500,000 home, or else there was room for the baby's furniture that you bought that is at Mr. house.
He refused to turn the office into a nursery. He wouldn't make room for the baby's room.
Do you have the baby's birth certificate?
No, I do not have that with me.
Okay. Do you have the baby's first footprints?
Yes, I have.
You do. So make a copy of them.
I will.
Make a copy of them. You're
No,
as entitled to that
that's
as
not a
she is. What other things does he have that are irreplaceable?
My ultrasound video,
Do
my
you have an
labor and delivery.
do you have an ultrasound video?
I have found that since then. I've never
Wonderful.
watched it. I don't need it. She can have it. No
Perfect.
problem.
What else?
The labor and delivery video.
The one that I shot on my camera, I will make her a copy of.
Will you do that?
That's no problem.
Will you do that within the
It's
next
our
couple of
child.
days?
I have no problem with
Would you
our.
do that within the next couple of days? That's easy. Make
Yes,
her a
ma'am.
copy. What else do you want, Miss Grande?
I would like my ring back. There's also this ring that an old boyfriend of mine gave to me.
Yes.
Sapphires and diamonds. I've
How do you
had
know
it
he
for
has
4
it?
years.
Do you know where that ring is?
Your Honor, I've never seen such a ring. And
Fine.
she's
I haven't.
left.
This is the first time I'm hearing about a ring. What's next?
That's it.
Great. Look how lovely this is. We've accomplished making you into an almost happy family. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Said that if I don't give her $10,000, I'll never be a part of the baby's life.
This is her shirt that when she was born, the hospital gave to me. He washed it like it was a fabric softener or something. I mean, this is something I was going to have framed from my daughter to keep forever.
I don't know if you heard the way she talks, but it's our baby, and she keeps saying my baby, so, you know, everything should be shared.
And now the next case.
All parties on Valancourt versus O'Reilly. Step forward, please.
23-year-old preschool teacher Lisa Valancourt is suing 22-year-old bar manager Brendan O'Reilly for her German Shepherd's broken teeth.
Miss Valancourt, this is your dog, I assume.
Yes.
According to your complaint, you dropped your dog off at a friend's house for your dog to play with her dog.
Yes.
And the defendant came in and decided to take both dogs for a walk, correct?
Take me to the dog park.
Or the dog park. Had anyone asked you to take her dog to the dog park?
No, ma'am.
What happened with her dog?
Well, there's a gentleman playing with the tennis racket and the tennis ball that the dog park supplies. He threw the tennis ball up to hit it, and as he threw it and swung, Jack jumped for the ball, so the tennis racket and Jack met the ball at the same time.
So this gentleman hit the dog in
In the mouth.
snout
Yes, ma'am.
with the tennis racket. Well, what happened to the dog after he was hit?
Jack ran over, laid down, and whimpered a little bit. I ran over to Jack, saw what had happened, talked to the gentleman for a minute, and
What do
then
you mean you
left.
talked to him for a minute?
I said that it was unfortunate that it happened, and asked him his name, and that's about it, and I left.
Did you see the dog's mouth?
Yes, ma'am.
The dog was injured?
Yes, it was.
So this lawsuit is about, pay attention, the medical bills that you
Yes.
incurred for the dog.
Yes.
Now, Mr. O'Reilly, you asked the gentleman his name. Did you ask him where he lived?
No, ma'am.
Didn't you feel as if he was responsible for the injury to the dog?
I did, but many times I had hit tennis balls at the park myself, and I thought that if a dog had jumped while I was swinging the racket and hit it, that it would simply be an accident. And because those things happen.
And is that what you told the plaintiff when she told you she wanted you to pay the bills?
Yes.
No, he didn't. He said, you better get a lawyer then, because I'm not going to hand you the money.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You treated this all very cavalierly.
Okay, apparently you've never been to a dog park. They run
No,
around,
I've
they
been
jump
to a
up.
dog park, sir. I have had dogs all my life, and I know exactly what it's like.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Valancourt claims former friend Brendan O'Reilly is responsible for her German Shepherd's broken teeth.
How much were your vet bills for Jack?
The total was $1,921, and they are currently broken again.
What did they have to do to his... It was his front teeth that were
His
broken.
two big canine teeth. He does bite work. He's a Schutzen dog, which is like police dog training, and I train him. That's what I bought him for. And they had to do 2 root canals, and they recapped them or bonded them. It's like a special thing that the doctor does. And one of them broke. He doesn't like his muzzle. And one of them just actually broke 2 weeks ago when we were doing bite work.
Okay, but right now your vet bills is what you
Are
said was
$1,921.
Okay.
Originally, I was asked to pay $900.
Well, it got worse. I assume you have the bills.
I have all of them, yes.
Let me
Can I
see
bring
them,
them up?
please.
Stay right there, man.
They're all circled, the totals.
Now, the initial problem was created by you because you, without anyone asking you to, took her dog.
I'd have to disagree.
Who asked you to take
The
her dog
initial
out?
problem was with her leaving the dog at my house.
No. No. You had other options. If she left the dog at your house, were you living there with your girlfriend at the time?
I was living there.
Okay, so you were living there with your girlfriend.
Yes.
Okay. You weren't complaining that the dog was there because then you could have made a phone call and said, get your dog out of my house. You decided to take her dog out along, I assume, with the other dog that was there.
Yes.
So you made that decision unilaterally. So between the two of you, if the dog is injured, let's say the dog is injured by, a flying meteor, not by somebody else's negligence, you would be responsible because you placed the dog in a position of being in that particular place and time.
Okay, what if I wasn't there when the dog was left there? I had no say in it.
It doesn't make any difference, Mr. O'Reilly. Your recourse is not to take the dog to the park. Your recourse is to pick up the phone and call her and say, come get your dog. I don't want it here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What I don't understand even further, Mr. O'Reilly, is this man was negligent. If you're going to use a tennis racket to hit balls to a dog, then you have to make sure that the field is clear so that you're not going to hit either another person or a dog. That's your responsibility if you're using a tennis racket, so that you cavalierly walk up to him and say, yeah, it happens.
Okay, apparently you've never been to a dog park. They run
No,
around,
I've
they
been
jump
to a
up.
dog park, sir. I have had dogs all my life, and I know exactly what it's like. But if somebody used a tennis racket, and in using a tennis racket wasn't careful enough so that my dog was injured, I would say not only get his name, but get his address and find out if he had homeowner's insurance that may cover the problem, if there were vet bills. You treated this all very cavalierly. Bottom line, somebody is out $1,921. And if you had the name of the person and the address of the person for her to proceed against,
They already have it.
where did she get the name and address of the person?
As far as I know, her sister tracked the person down and got the name and address and talked to the gentleman.
Why didn't you?
I didn't, simply because if I was in his shoes, I would feel the same. I wouldn't want to be held responsible.
I suggest that since you didn't bother to track down this gentleman initially, that you track him down now. Because you have a lawsuit against him for $1,921. You personally, not her. You go get the money from him. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,921. That's all.
All is excused. Sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Miss Johnson, you and Mr. Spain live together and have 2 children together.
Yes, ma'am.
And you are no longer a couple.
Yes, ma'am. No,
Despite the fact that you both appear today as plaintiffs. My understanding of this rather complex case is that when you and Mr. Spain separated, Mr. Spain began a relationship with the defendant, Miss Bailey. And he, in fact, moved in with her. According to you, you tried to maintain a civil relationship with both of them, with Mr. Spain for the benefit of the children, and for Miss Bailey just because. But Miss Bailey was not happy with you for some reason, and it is your claim that she vandalized your car. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are suing her as a co-plaintiff with Mr. Spain, who says that Miss Bailey kept some of his personal property when he moved out of the house because they are no longer together. Miss Bailey says that she did nothing to your car. It's actually you who harassed her, you and Mr. Spain. That it was Mr. Spain who damaged your car.
Correct.
And that you slashed her tires, you caused her to lose her job, and she wants from you, Mr. Spain, rent for the time that you were living with her. She has a counterclaim. All right, let's try to put some dates to these facts. Mr. Spain, when did you and Miss Johnson live together?
2000 and...
Maybe I'll ask Miss Johnson.
We moved in, was about July 2003.
And how old are your children?
My son is 2 and my daughter is 4.
And when did Mr. Spain move out?
He moved out November 23rd, 2004.
Why?
Because of our differences. It wasn't working out.
When did you move in with Miss Bailey?
About the 26th.
Of what?
Of November.
You knew her from before?
Yes.
From where?
School.
How come you moved in with Miss Bailey?
Because she had asked me to move in with her.
I mean, did you rent a room from her, or were you living together as a couple?
Living together as a couple.
So that while you were with Miss Johnson, you were also with Miss Bailey?
No. She
I mean, it's a short 3 days, sir, you were in somebody else's house.
She had called me on the phone talking to her.
Yeah. When I came home from work, he was on the phone talking to her.
On the 23rd of November?
Yes, ma'am.
So then he moved out and he was living with Miss Bailey. How long did you stay with Miss Bailey, Mr. Spain?
About a month and a half.
Is that right, Miss Bailey?
He moved in November 23rd. He was arrested January the 4th, so that's the last time he lived with me when he got out of jail.
What were you arrested for?
Home invasion.
Burglary?
Nah.
What?
Well, no,
Just kicked in the door.
Kicked in her door.
Yeah, he kicked in my door.
You kicked in her door?
Where his kids lay at his at night.
Shh. What'd you kick in her door for?
Just jealous, and I was really upset what was going on when I was living with her.
Well, so you were annoyed with Miss Bailey, so you kicked in Miss Johnson's door?
Yes.
It's very logical. Getting too old for this job. All right, Miss Johnson, tell me about the vandalism of your car. When did that happen?
December the 16th.
And you were still living with Miss Bailey, is that right, Mr. Spain?
Yes.
In between the time that they were together, it's been harassing phone calls. I mean, he would call, he would get me upset, he would get me upset, just arguing over our relationship, whatever. Then she would call, and she would play on the phone, repeatedly call, left threatening messages on my voicemail, and of course I've defended myself in the argument too, but I guess she got real upset to the point where she wants to come over to my house, and she'd scratch the car.
Well, I want to know, were you home when she scratched the car?
Yeah, I was home, but I was asleep. It happened overnight.
So you didn't see her scratch the car?
No, I didn't see her scratch the car, but I do have a witness with me.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to hear that witness. Tell me your name, please.
Monica Dykes.
Dykes, did you see on December 16th somebody vandalized Miss Johnson's car?
No, I wasn't with her at the time, but I was at her house. I was spending the night at her house, and she was supposed to go get me something to eat. And
Who was?
Miss Bailey. She didn't come back with my food, and I asked her why, and she said because she came in the house with a box cutter, and she said that she had scratched Miss Johnson's car.
Well, how do you know Miss Bailey?
They were going together. This is my brother.
When she came home, she just took out the box cutter and told you? What did she do?
No, she had the box cutter in her hand.
Walked in the door with the box cutter in her hand?
It was in her pocket, and she took it out.
Well, tell me about that. I'm curious about that whole moment when she walked into the house with the box cutter in her pocket.
When she walked into the house, I was like, well, what happened to the Burger King that you're supposed to bring back? She said, well, Burger King was closed, and I just came back from around Mrs. Johnson's house, and I scratched the car up, and I hope she come around here with some... She's lying.
So what did you say to her?
Nothing. I didn't say anything after that.
She's lying. You didn't say, why would you do that?
Well, I asked her why. She said, because she just been harassing me and all this other stuff.
Did she tell you what she'd been doing to harass you?
She said that Miss Johnson has been calling her house numerous of times.
So they were speed dialing each other.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Miss Bailey, now I'll hear from you.
Thank you so much. First of all, he moved in my home November 23rd of 2004. He got moved out because he went to jail for kicking in her door. I was pregnant at the time with his kid. So when he got out of jail, I no longer want him in my home anymore. So while the process he's been in jail, me and Christina Stovall right here took all of his belongings.
I'm not at his claim yet, Miss Bailey.
Oh, okay, well, where are we at?
I'm keying her car.
Oh, keying her car, and he keyed her car, and this is the night that he got arrested. He came over to my house bragging about keying her car in as well as kicking her door in. Why would I key her car? He kicked the key. I mean, he keyed the car in and kicked the door, and he know he did.
I was there.
If he's gonna kick her, if he's gonna kick her door in, she's gonna key her car. Whatever, you lying.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If somebody moves in with you in December and you get pregnant between December and January 4th, you're not too swift.
And later today,
Where is the car now?
The car is in front of my house now.
You have not sought to have the car returned to you, have you?
No.
Smart lady.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kimberly Johnson and Arthur Spain Jr. claim Arthur's ex-girlfriend, Tequila Bailey, keyed Kimberly's Pontiac Grand Am. Arthur also says Tequila won't return his belongings.
You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see. Step up. Tell me your name.
Christina Stovall.
You said that you were present when Mr. Spain acknowledged that he vandalized Miss Johnson's car?
Yes.
When was that?
January 4th.
Tell me about what he said.
Me and Tequila and her two sisters were in the living room. He came in through the door. He was sweating, walking around. You could tell he had did something. This is what he said. He said, I keyed in her car, I kicked in her door, and the police is coming. So Tequila said, let's go upstairs and talk about it.
Yeah, but the police report...
He did it at
He did it what?
He did it at 2 different times. When he keyed in her car a couple days before he kicked in her door. But he came in bragging about both of it.
Yeah.
No. No.
Yeah. He keyed her car. I don't know what he keyed the car in, but the night he got arrested...
Listen to me very carefully. Where did you spend Christmas?
At my house.
Did you see Miss Bailey?
I see her every day. All the
and
time.
what about Mr. Spain? Did you see him?
Yeah, I see him.
Shut up.
I used to go to school with him. I
So
used to go to
listen
his candy
me.
store. He
Listen
knows
to
who
me.
I am.
Okay. So you know them both and you saw them between December 16th and January 4th. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what you're telling me is on January 4th, he acknowledged keying her car.
Because he came in all nervous.
All right. But the police report is from December 16th. Why in the world would he come in all nervous and hyper and confess to something that he had done on December 16th?
He already confessed to me a long time ago about it.
Because he was scared.
He was bragging.
Sit down. Okay. Good. Very good. No, I believe that he kicked in her door, but on December 16th, I believe her when she says that you went out to get her some Burger King and you came back and you keyed her car.
Nah.
Yeah, no. Okay, now, what stuff do you claim that you left at Miss Bailey's home?
Radio, TVs, CDs, DVDs, weights.
Where's all his stuff?
We took 2 trips to her mom and his mom's house, and he knows and she knows. As a matter of fact, I had Matt come get the guns that was in my house. They don't have any permits for.
What kind of guns?
Sawed-offs.
BB guns.
Sawed-offs.
Who is this gentleman?
That's my friend.
What does he have to do with this case?
His weights are in her house.
He helped haul
He helped
her
haul my
belongings
stuff
over
over
to
there.
her house.
And we hauled it right back. And I don't know what your father did with them, but we hauled it right
a
back.
few baskets over to his house. This is when he was locked up.
TV returned?
No. And
Everything
she
was
brought me my shoes and she brought my shoes, a box full of my shoes, and my remote control was in in the box.
What kind of television did he bring to your house? Look at me directly. Don't look at the floor.
I'm looking at you. I don't know exactly what kind of television it was. It was little black box television.
Where is it?
His mama's house. Me and her took 2 trips to Hallville, Indiana, to give them their stuff. But he got locked up from my house. I got a letter in my mail from my landlord saying that if they find him or anything of his in my house again, I will be in court for eviction because he was not on my lease. So I quickly took all his stuff to his mother's house. All his stuff. He knows it.
She is lying. Now, Miss Bailey, what I want you to do is I want you to tell me about your counterclaim. You think that Mr. Spain should pay you for rent?
Yes.
What kind of contract did you have with him for your
We didn't
rent?
have anything written down, signed, because when you're supposedly having a relationship, you don't do that. But we have verbal. You're going to pay half on everything. You're not going to stay in my house and lay up and sleep, and not pay nothing on anything.
Miss Bailey.
Yes, ma'am.
We live in a civilized society. So I want you to leave your gutter language outside.
I can do that. That's fine.
And you're going to wait until I'm finished speaking before you open your mouth.
Okay.
You're going to leave your gutter language outside, and you're going to remember where you are. We understand each other?
We do.
Perfect.
Kimberly Johnson and Arthur Spain Jr. claim Arthur's ex-girlfriend, Tequila Bailey, keyed Kimberly's Pontiac Grand Am. Arthur also says Tequila won't return his belongings.
I believe that after he moved out, he wanted money, but I don't believe he had an agreement with him to pay you half of everything.
Next. Somebody can't stay with me.
Listen to me. Next.
First of all, my tires were slashed. I couldn't get to work. I had to call in to get my car fixed. Second of all, they're playing my phone. He's coming to my job, my new job and my old job, harassing on me on my job.
Well, just a second. What did he say when he came to your job?
I broke up with him. He wants to be with me. He loves me. He wants to be a family. Let's make it work. I don't want to be with you. I want to be a family. Go raise your 2 kids with Kimberly.
Just a second. I don't understand you.
What do you mean?
You're talking too fast.
I talk fast all the time. I know. He wants to be with me.
So he came to you telling you that he wanted to be with you, he wanted to be a family.
Making a scene. Yeah, making a scene at work. He wanted to be with me.
And that's why you got fired.
That, and I had to call in because I was pregnant with his child, and he was in jail. I couldn't work. I was sick.
I mean, you think that he's responsible for you?
Yeah, he helped me make the baby. Yeah.
What?
He helped make the baby. Yeah, he's responsible.
That's not a lawsuit.
It is mine.
It's not one that I'm going to hear.
That's fine, Miss Judge Judy.
It's not one that I'm going to hear. How many children do you have?
I have 1.
Okay. So you know how babies are made, right?
I do.
If you don't want to have a baby, then what you do is you take precautions so that you don't have a baby. If somebody moves in with you in December and you get pregnant between December and January 4th, you're not too swift.
Right.
Can I see pictures of your car?
Yes. Yeah, Your Honor, she scratched the whole driver's side, and she also...
Can I just see the pictures of the car?
My voice.
Okay. Did you have these scratches taken care of?
No, ma'am.
You have an estimate on how much it's going to cost?
Yes,
to have
ma'am,
the
I do.
Scratches taken care of? That's a reasonable estimate. Listen, there is no question in my mind that the two of you women behaved badly towards each other, right?
Right.
I think Mr. Spain behaved badly, too. Listen, Miss Bailey, don't get in between people. It's always a very bad idea. If someone has a fight with his wife, woman, girlfriend, whatever it is, and if you take him in the day that he had a fight, and then if you make a baby with him, that makes you a smart woman who's not acting too smart, or a stupid woman who's not acting too smart. I don't know which one you are.
I was stupid.
But whoever you are, you owe us $600 to have a car painted. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I ain't even mad, though. That's the whole thing. I ain't even mad. I'm cool.
She's a liar. She's crazy. She needs some mental help.
I don't need anything from any one of them. And I'm still strong, sitting on my own 2 feet.
That's the devil right there.
Thing is, I got this. Come on, bring it, because I'm ready. Straight up, I'm ready.
The girl's crazy. And you seen it in there. She crazy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ford versus Tarrant. Step forward, please.
Barber Glenn Ford is suing his former lover, office technician Elizabeth Tarrant, for the balance on a 1988 Toyota Celica he bought for her daughter.
Mr. Ford, it is your claim that Miss Tarrant, with whom you were briefly involved, owes you money for a car that you purchased for her daughter. and for impound fees later when the car was impounded because her daughter didn't have a driver's license. Ms. Tarrant indicates that both of those things were gifts and you did not seek any money until after she decided she no longer wanted to be involved in a committed relationship with you. Is that what this case is about?
Yes.
Fine. Where is the car now?
The car is in front of my house now.
You have not sought to have the car returned to you, have you?
No.
Smart lady. Mr. Ford, can you explain to me why this is a relatively new purchase? According to your complaint, the car was purchased for her daughter sometime in February, correct?
In March.
So it was driven by her for a relatively short period of time. Why don't you just sell it?
The reason why I don't want to sell it, because I'm really not in this business of selling car. I had purchased the car for Elizabeth because she needed a car for her daughter. And it was an understanding, a mutual understanding between us two, and a contract that we had, which she didn't sign.
Well, then I'm not interested in it, sir. My question to you is a very practical one. This is a relationship that clearly was not going anywhere. The only nexus tie that you had to each other was this car. You got the car back, and I understand that you're not in the car business, but I don't know what your losses are.
Well, the car was impound, and she had agreed to pay me for the impound fees. I had to get the car out of impound, and the only way that I was able to get the car out of impound was that her daughter had to have a driver's license, so they could release the car to me from out of impound. I took her daughter to get a driver's license, and she had a driver's license, and I went to pick up the car from the impound. I incurred losses there. Now, she agreed that she would pay for these losses that I had incurred.
You mean for the impound fees?
For the impound, yes.
That's not unreasonable. What do you do for a living, Mr. Ford?
I'm a barber.
Is it your own business?
Yes, it is.
Then you're a businessman, Mr. Ford, and you appear to be an intelligent person. You may not know a lot about cars. I don't know a lot about cars either. But I know that if I had a piece of property in my possession, in this case a car, and I had the title to it, which you do at this point because she signed it over to you, before I would bring her to court, I would put an ad in the paper, a sign in the window, and I would say I'm going to sell this car and see what I get for it. And then you won't be out any money unless you just wanted to bust her chops. So, Mr. Ford, before you come to court, go sell the car and see if you come up with a shortfall on the money you laid out. Do we understand each other?
Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect. Goodbye.
Parties are excused.